We've got the spritzer filled with water, just in case if stuff gets too fire. I'm gonna set up the speaker, and I'm gonna listen to
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I think this is the best
Mike Schopp.
feature that I've heard in a long time. I think his flow is really good in it, and I like his aggressiveness on it, and
The Bulldog.
put not enough effort in it. I think overall his flow was good, but I don't like that mobile rapping. That was my review of
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Didn't need the spritzer. Wasn't fire enough. No spritzer for you. No spritzer.
Oh, is it going to be a day? I'll tell you. We've got. Well, I'm not really sure what I know we've got on tap. We've got a mock draft on tap. We've got 4 participants who I'll be introducing momentarily. Those of you who are already watching on the Facebook page for WGR via our StreamYard link, you can see the participants. Hi everybody. This is a NFL mock draft, and it's going to run from now until Sabres pregame at 6. And this mock draft on our show is presented by the Quilted Squirrel, the marketing agency who believes your brand matters. We are going to be choosing for all 32 NFL teams. And by we, I mean the group I'm about to introduce in the order that we will be selecting. The order of our draft has been predetermined. There are no people from Jacksonville nor Atlanta joining us on the Wester hotline to choose players. It's up to the 4 of us. And the 4 of us are as follows. Picking first, you know him from, his baldness and his endless, boundless energy, as well as roaming the sidelines of NFL stadiums all around America, hopefully doing that again soon starting this season. Ladies and gentlemen, Sal Capaccio. Hi, Sal.
Hi, Bulldog. How are you? Hi, Nate. Hi, Joe. Good to be here. Everything's great.
Sal,
2 things.
Sal,
Number
you shouldn't
one,
have said hi to
because of the
everybody
baldness
else.
joke,
You're
I
screwing
might
it up on
not take
me.
Trevor Lawrence. What's that?
So you're screwing up. You introduced everyone else. I got introductions ready. I was all official here. And
I got you.
blowing
You
me
can still
off.
introduce them, but I was going to tell you,
Sorry.
because you called me, my baldness and all that, I might just kind of screw with you guys, and not take
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence, number 1 overall. Also, for our other person you haven't introduced there on the screen, I just want you all to know that I do have caffeinated coffee here today because I cannot go. And that's
You gotta do it.
Boxer on there, but
Gotta do
I
it
have
for a mock
caffeinated
draft.
coffee here ready to go because I drink a lot of it.
Yeah. All right. I did think about putting a pot of coffee on for this.
It's 3 o'clock, guys.
And pardon?
It's three in the afternoon. We're still doing coffee, or
Well, sometimes if I need it,
Okay.
I will do it, Nate. But I thought I've got too much going on here between the StreamYard and the sponsors and keeping track of mock drafts that I am going to liberally steal from to make these selections. And I've only got one iPad and a phone, and so the StreamYard's on my phone. So I thought coffee would make me too frantic. I'm already frantic enough as it is. Let me get back to the introductions. Picking second, you know him from such hit shows as Schopp and the Bulldog, as well as The Nightcap. His favorite Sabre ever is Max Affinagenoff, but we love him anyways. Ladies and gentlemen, Sneaky Joe DiBiase. Joe, what are you hoping to accomplish today in the mock draft?
I just want to go best player available and don't want to offend anybody. I think that's the goal for today's mock draft for me.
Well, I wish you luck. I wish you luck on all those fronts. Picking third, you know him from his Bills pre- and post-game work, as well as Sports Talk Saturdays, and also awful takes like people who bring crying infants onto airplanes should be incarcerated. Ladies and gentlemen, Nate Geary.
listen, 1 year and that take is still running strong. Anytime somebody takes a child or sees a child on an airplane, they take a picture and tag me in it. So, listen, who's really winning that one, Bulldog?
Dude, I was sitting with my wife and Leo, our 17-year-old son, so there was no crying from him, although I don't think he was terribly comfortable and happy. We sat on the runway in Detroit for an hour getting de-iced on I guess that would have been Tuesday night, and right across the aisle from me was a couple. They were sitting in two separate rows. There was a mom with a baby strapped to her chest, and then the dad had like a 2-year-old daughter in the seat with him. And as we sat there, I had headphones on. I was binge watching some TV show, but this poor girl was crying the entire time we were de-icing. and I felt so bad. At one point, like I couldn't hear exactly what was going on, but at one point a stewardess came over and seemed like she was offering advice that wasn't terribly welcomed by the father. You know, like sort of like, hey, let me tell you what to do for your daughter who you know and I don't.
That's the slippery slope, no?
Yeah.
Like, for me, I would rather tweet and complain than say, "Hey, Mr. Father, Mother, let me show you what you should be doing."
Dude, I just felt bad for the guy. I know he's feeling the pressure, and it lasted the whole time we were sitting there getting de-iced for about an hour. But then once we got in the air, he stopped. And so, I'm sure he was relieved, and everyone was relieved. But I did think of you on Tuesday night as my vacation was ending. For that awful, ridiculous take about crying babies on planes. All right. Anyway, so here we go. Right, we're picking the entire first round of the NFL draft. I think we've agreed on the order. I've already said it's Sal, Joe, Nate, and then me. I'll go fourth, and we'll all sort of, I guess, take turns making each pick. But then whoever's turn it actually is, that's going to be the official show pick. And then we each, I think the four of us, will make a selection for the Bills at 30. Does that sound good to everybody?
Good to me.
Works for me. Do we have sound effects? Is Joe going to play, like, when someone goes on the clock, makes the pick?
He's got the music going. I mean, that's
right.
a big help.
Do 5 things at once. Yes, he is.
No, that's good. That's good.
All right. Well, I guess without any further ado, I mean, we should get rolling. There's not going to be any bro hugs. Maybe I'll get Fred to come up on my lap after I make a pick, and I can hug him. But Sal, you're on the clock with pick 1.
And I'll start the draft, and hopefully this is the start of something that does not go longer than 4 or 5 hours like the NFL draft first round has over the last several years. I just put some stats out today. People were asking me when the Bills are going to pick at 30th, like what time. Last year, the 30th pick was made at 11:55 p.m., just so you all know. So let's just hope that does not
the case this
happen
year.
Today. I will try to expedite the process by going with the player that I had a long, hard, evaluation of since I knew I was having the number 1 pick after the Jets thankfully just handed it over to me as the Jacksonville Jaguars here later in the season. And that is, of course, Clemson quarterback Trevor Lawrence, pairing him with Urban Meyer in his first year. Trevor Lawrence has been earmarked as the number 1 pick, guys, in this draft for the last several years since he was a freshman in college.
I feel like I want to make a case for Justin Fields at least being in the debate for number 1. There's some draft guys out there that want to do it. I don't. I just feel like Benjamin Solak is one from the Draft Network that has said that he thinks Justin Fields might even be the best quarterback prospect that he has ever had. So
even if that is the case, if people view that like their ability, there's no way the Jags are thinking that, right?
That's right.
So
That's
I'm
right.
going here. That's
no question. Yeah, the best I can do to offer you anything on Lawrence is that I think it is the height of draft season silliness that he had to explain that he doesn't treat himself or view himself as like I'm here to shock the world. I'm an underdog. Sal, you just said it. He's been anointed as the number 1 pick since he started playing college football 3 years ago. For him to have some sort of chip on his shoulder would be absurd. I mean, not saying like some guy in that position couldn't have that, but I'm glad he's at least just being real and honest about, his personality. And, I just thought the debate about it or any criticism that was levied at him for being honest about not treating himself as anything but the anointed number 1 pick in this draft was hilarious. He's huge. He's athletic. He can throw it everywhere. I mean, what's not to love if you're picking first? So, no question. He's the first pick.
Yeah.
Anything on Lawrence, Nate?
I like Sal's point. He's sort of been the de facto number 1 pick since his freshman year. There's no reason to think anyone's going any other way other than that. I've got some surprises in my sleeve as the quarterbacks kind of play out over these next couple of picks. I don't really suspect the second pick is going to have a lot of surprises here, but I think the first 2 picks are really kind of they're set in stone. And maybe the Zach Wilson thing is a little bit more of like the interesting take. I just think the number 1 pick has been sealed since 2019. So I think there isn't much to do about this.
All right, Joe, you're on the clock, buddy.
Just for clarification, I don't know if we've talked about this. We are going by who we think is going with this pick, not who we would pick.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Because if it were the case that I'm Jets GM and I'm picking second, I am not picking Zach Wilson. I am picking Justin Fields. But
I think most mocks, I try to make this clear, most mocks are what you think will happen unless you're otherwise stating that.
right, exactly. So for the purposes of that, I am absolutely going with Zach Wilson with the second overall pick. It's pretty well out there in the media that he will be the guy, and the Eagles being so infatuated with Wilson and trading down all the way to 12, to me, definitely says that there's no way the Jets are not taking Wilson at 2.
Wilson is what? This year's Joe Burrow, right? I mean, he's the kind of the guy that came on late in the draft process, wasn't really talked about last year. I mean, if you were to look at mock drafts of this class going back to the start of the season, Zach Wilson is nowhere in the first round. So I think he has that sort of Joe Burrow feel about him, but I think he's actually going to end up going into a situation in New York that is set up maybe better than any setup for a rookie quarterback that the Jets have had in a very long time.
Probably better for guys to show up like Zach Wilson showed up late here, Nate, like you're saying, as opposed to Lawrence, who's been around for so long that you just start picking and like inventing things to criticize about him.
Same
like
with
Wilson
Fields. That's what they're doing with Fields.
Right. Wilson at least is fresh enough that there's not like, okay, he checks a lot of boxes. Great. Okay, he's the number 2 pick. Thanks. Move on.
You know what? But, Nate, it's funny you say best setup for a rookie quarterback the Jets could, for the Jets in a while. It's still not a great setup. It's the Jets until they prove otherwise. I think, that's a low bar to clear, right?
Yeah, incredibly low bar to clear. But I do think Joe Douglas has done a nice job. He's going to walk in with, I think, NFL talent at his wide receivers, and hopefully Mims can come along. But I like what they did with Corey Davis. I think, Zach Wilson walks into a pretty good situation there in New York.
All right, pick 3 is up. That means, Nate, it's the San Francisco 49ers at pick 3, and this is, I think, a pretty interesting spot because there's been a lot of conversation about exactly what they are going to do here. I mean, there's no question it's going to be a quarterback. I don't think anyways. I mean, I guess I've heard a few people say they could just pick Kyle Pitts and just pair him up with Kittle and just ruin people, but it seems quarterback. That's why you pay all that premium to move up there. So which guy do you think they're going to go with, Nate?
So let me tell you first who I don't think they're going to go with. I don't think Mac Jones is the pick at 3. I was watching Colin Cowherd last week, and I really loved his point. This is a team historically that does not tell. It doesn't have tells. It doesn't leak. What good does leaking that San Francisco and Shanahan really want Mac Jones a month before the draft? It doesn't serve them a purpose. It doesn't serve the franchise a purpose. Literally, John Lynch, his one requirement to become the GM there was to make sure that there was no leaks in the organization. He wasn't going to take the job. If it got leaked, he was sort of the candidate they were zoning in on. So knowing all of that, I'm not buying this Mac Jones hype. I am going to go with the guy that I think has the highest upside in the entire draft, a guy that I think can walk in day one, even though he may not have the college game experience maybe others want him to have. I think he's the one guy in this draft that can play under center and has shown he can play under center, where almost every other quarterback in this draft, especially at the top, has all played exclusively from shotgun. I'm going with Trey Lance here at the 3rd overall pick from North Dakota State, and the reason I'm doing that is because I think ultimately he has the highest ceiling of this draft. He's the tools guy, and I think if you're Shanahan and you're looking at who can step in and run my offense better than the guys I have right now, I think that's Trey Lance. So I'm going Trey Lance. I know that might be a little controversial, and I know that maybe changes the way that the rest of this board plays out, but I am just not buying that Mac Jones is a top 15 pick.
I have not bought the Mac Jones thing from it was a couple Fridays, 3 or 4 Fridays ago when that trade got made here, and I didn't believe it as soon as the Mac Jones to San Francisco hype started. The best I could do to guess at why, like San Francisco, if they indeed got it out there, is to implore Bill Belichick to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo because I'm going to take your guy. Your guy, if you like Mac Jones, you're not getting him because I'm taking him at 3. I think that's probably ridiculous, but it's the best I can do to explain the Mac Jones stuff because I just don't buy it. I don't think you pay the premium they've paid to draft a player that doesn't just sort of explode off of the field, from a talent and athleticism standpoint. So
I think what happened here, guys, was they made the trade, and there's a knee-jerk reaction to, ooh, they must love somebody. They're going to 3. Who do they love? And people start to kind of try to figure that out, source it out, whatever, and who knows, like, what was leaked, what wasn't. But I don't think they actually had a guy in mind, to be honest with you. I think they did what the Jets did in 2018, which is the Jets went from 6 to 3 and said, we're good with any of these 3 guys. I think they're good with 3 guys. They probably have at least 3 guys in mind, right? So How do you make sure you get one of them? You get to number 3, and then they let the process sort itself out. I could see Mac Jones. I could see Justin Fields. I could see Trey Lance. I really could. I could see any of them. But I'm leaning less towards Mac Jones these days because of a lot of reasons you guys said. I don't think the 49ers made the deal with a player in mind. I think they made the deal comfortable with 3 players in mind.
All right, interesting. I would expect them to take Fields myself, by the way, just so it's said. But the official
I like
will
that
be
we're all
Lance.
kind of different on this, by the way. I assumed we would be. I think San Francisco is the fun pick of this draft, maybe the most fun. So I'm, selfishly happy I got the pick. But also, I think this sort of discussion probably is a good indication of what the actual discussion is happening inside San Francisco, because frankly, I agree 100% with Sale. I think they moved up knowing that one of the 3 guys that were going to be available, I'm sure he had inside knowledge from Saleh, being his former defensive coordinator, that, hey, we can tell you we're going Zach Wilson. And I'm sure he's like, listen, I'm going to move up, and I know we're going to have a shot at one of these 3 guys. It's my job from now until the draft to come to that decision and conclusion with John Lynch. And I still feel I would be very surprised if Mac Jones went number 3. Like, it would be Blake Bortles level surprised for me if he went number 3 overall.
Yeah, I like that way of looking at it. I agree. I think it would be even though there's been so much talk about it, it still will surprise me if it ends up happening. Joe, what about you at that spot? You think Fields?
I don't buy the Mac Jones hype either. I really want your Garoppolo theory to be true, that Kyle Shanahan is just playing games with Bill Belichick. Like, hey, come spend a first-round pick on Jimmy Garoppolo. I hope he does it, too, because of all the potential moves New England could still make at quarterback. I think them trading for Jimmy Garoppolo, from the Bills' perspective, would be the most appealing to me.
100% agree with that, man. Like, go ahead and put a ceiling on your quarterback's ability. Right away, I would love that. I fear New England getting even Mac Jones, because we don't know really what he's going to be. I'd rather they get someone that we've already seen and know what he is, and that So Garoppolo, to me, even if it's an upgrade over Newton, I still think you're putting a you're clogging up the carburetor.
Yeah,
on that,
what I don't want San Francisco to do is actually be truthful the whole time and Mac Jones was our guy. We're taking him at 3 because from the Bills' perspective, that really does open up the path. It opens up New England to come get Trey Lance or Fields. Because, if Mac Jones does go 3 to San Francisco, you need 2 other teams to pick a quarterback before New England comes up and gets one. So you need Denver, and then you need Atlanta or Detroit. And getting 2 of those 3 teams to pick a quarterback, to me, right now, does not seem all that likely.
Well, the draft, it has been said, begins, although Nate makes the point, 3 is interesting because San Francisco could do one of 3 things there, right? But we know it's going to be a quarterback. The Falcons are sitting at 4. Maybe they trade out. Some people have speculated that they choose a replacement. Maybe Trey Lance fits there, although he's not available now in this exercise, as an understudy to Matt Ryan. But they're married to Matt Ryan here. So they're picking 4th, and I think the way they've handled their offseason, the coach they hired, I think Matt Ryan's contract does not make it convenient at all for them to move on from him. So I think that signals we're going to try to keep going with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, and I think they pick maybe the best athlete outside of the quarterbacks in this draft in the tight end Kyle Pitts. I think that's the pick. Because the signs all point to them trying to win again with Matt Ryan, and I think giving him, potentially a tight end that just jumps off the page at you makes a lot of sense for them. So I think Pitts is the pick for the Falcons. What about you guys?
Well, I think there's a chance they take a quarterback, but I think the way the wind is blowing right now, Pitts would be my favorite. Because Ryan is 36, and if you're not going to take a quarterback, well, you're buying in to we are going to try to win at all costs in the final years of his career. And how do you do that? I would go add a guy that right now is clearly the best at his position, might be the best non-quarterback in the entire draft, and is just another weapon for Atlanta to throw to. So I like the Pitts pick for them, and if I had to put money on one of them, Pitts would be the guy I'd want.
So I want to also look at the way the board's fallen here, guys, and say if Justin Fields is there at 4, especially Fields, I think it could go for a lot of the quarterbacks, but if it's Fields, I do think there's a high probability of this pick getting traded. They could still take Pitts. I love the pick, Bulldog. I think if they keep it, they take Pitts. But I think Fields is that guy where people might go, I can go to 4 now and get Justin Fields, whoever that might be. But if the Falcons keep it, and obviously in our exercise here, they're going to keep the pick. I do think it's Kyle Pitts because I think Arthur Smith could really envision what he could do with that offense. I think he's a very good offensive mind. He would love that.
Listen, I love Kyle Pitts. I think he's the best player, not just best non-quarterback. I think he's the best player in the draft. I think he's the best player in a couple of years in this draft. And having said that, I firmly believe if Justin Fields is on the board, Atlanta would be silly to not make that selection. Get yourself the quarterback of your future. You already have a really remarkable set of weapons. I really think the 4th pick in this draft for the Falcons is worst case scenario. They desperately need a cornerstone pass rusher in a draft where they'd have basically the first non-quarterback off the board. What a terrible year for there to really be no top tier pass rush for the Atlanta Falcons. So for me, this should be a defensive move. So to Sal's point, if you're not taking Justin Fields, as much as I love Pitts, I think a trade back has to be in their mind. I just think it has to be. And move back, get yourself in position, and maybe take the best defensive player on the board. They need corner. They need pass rush. They need interior defensive line. They need linebacker. Maybe Micah Parsons is in play for them later. I just think sitting at 4 and taking Pitts, nobody would blame them for it. I just think it would be a bad move for them in terms of what they actually need to do to get a little bit better.
Yeah, I think them moving down I'm glad that you guys are making the case for that because it certainly is a possibility. I think especially if it falls like this. Or maybe if it doesn't. Like if San Francisco picks Fields at 3 instead of Lance, say, or even Jones, maybe Denver comes up to 4 to get Lance, or or New England comes up. Like it's definitely possible, especially if Atlanta doesn't pick a quarterback, which I don't expect them to do. They want to get out of there. Somebody may pay a premium to get in there. So that's definitely on the table too. All right, we're through 4 picks. Let's get Sal in for one more before we hit the break here. Pick 5, Sal.
When I saw that I'd pick 5, I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I know it's coming down to 2 guys. I don't know what to do with this because to me, I've been going back and forth between these 2 players for this spot for as long as I've been looking at this draft and kind of staring there and going, do they take the offensive tackle, Sewell, the Cincinnati Bengals, of course? Do they take a wide receiver? And this is very hard. You guys see this on the stream. On the stream, you might see I got a phone in my hand. This is me on the contacts, and I got a Bengals contact. It's telling me I got a Bengals contact that I've been in touch with who said, "Take Jamar Chase. We love Jamar Chase. Take Jamar." I'm going to take Jamar Chase, reunite him with Joe Burrow, his college wide receiver. I was up to Penei Sewell up until the last few minutes until I was told by my contacts in Cincinnati to make sure I take Jamar Chase. So I'm going to take Jamar Chase, who I believe is a fantastic football player. He was the number 1 wide receiver going into the season, I think, in college. He opted out, though. And you know what? To be honest with you, I don't want to see the Miami Dolphins with him, so maybe it's a little bit selfish, but honestly, I've gone back and forth. I could see Sewell. I could see Chase. I think if Pitts is there, I could see him, obviously. I'm going to go Chase for our exercise here.
I'd like to squeeze in take an opportunity to make fun of the Bengals a little bit because they are sort of like the Sabres of the NFL, like as far as their front office and resources, just sort of cutting corners. So whatever the worst idea is what I would expect them to do at 5. So I don't know.
That has been traditionally the case with them. I think that's great. Right.
So I don't know if they're, could they pass on Sewell and take like the consensus 5th ranked offensive tackle because he likes Skyline chili or something? Like that seems a very Bengali kind of thing to have happen. But I think, Sal, I would guess that they'll pick the tackle myself because Burrow got his knee torn up last year and they're going to want to make sure they protect him. So I'll say I would expect them to take Sewell, but I think it seems that it's one of those 2 guys, like you're saying.
It's tough to throw Chase.
I've been on the Sewell. I've been on the Sewell side of that for a while, but I'm going to go Chase here. I think it could very well be Chase because of. I think Burrow would have intel and say, "Get me this guy. You don't know he's great. I can throw to him," and I mean that would help a lot.
That would give them a nice trio too at wide receiver. Ultimately, I don't know that he would get to really utilize that trio from his back. And frankly, I think the other argument here is Sewell's a great player. Is he just transforming that entire line? Like, is a good left tackle making the rest of that line better? I know they got Jonah Williams, and he's going to bump over to the right side if they get Sewell, but the whole interior of that offensive line is still a mess. So does Sewell himself just make them some kind of, great offensive line? I'm not sure. So, yeah, maybe to Sale's point, maybe you just go and you get the best weapon you can go and get. And I think if you're going best available here, truly, and you look at Sewell and you look at Chase, kind of hard to make an argument that Sewell is a better prospect right now than Jamar Chase is.
All right, we're through 5 picks. Nothing shocking, although maybe Lance going 3rd overall to San Francisco might surprise some people. But in order from 1 through 5, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson to the Jets, Trey Lance to the 49ers, Kyle Pitts to the Falcons, Jamar Chase to the Bengals. We are off and running here. The draft is about finding value and improving your team. Well, if you're a business owner or a marketing manager, you know how valuable a great marketing team can be for you. Whether it's a new website, a video, or a campaign to inject new life into your brand, it's important to have the right team behind you to get the job done. And that's exactly what Quilted Squirrel will do for you. As a local marketing and branding agency, Quilted Squirrel helps organizations like yours build stronger brands and more meaningful connections with their customers. Go to quiltedsquirrel.com to see how they can become a valuable part of your team today. We'll continue with our very first ever Schopp and the Bulldog mock draft, minus Mike Schopp, sadly. We've got Sneaky Joe DiBiase, Nate Geary, Sal Capaccio. I am the Bulldog. We are streaming live on the WGR Facebook page, so if you're listening in your car right now and you want to go, you get in the house or on your mobile device, check that out. Please do. We'd encourage you to do it. We'll be back for picks 6 through, 10 or so before this hour is up on WGR.
You're listening to Schopp and the Bulldog on the home of the Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550. All sports, all the time.
West-Her Lincoln in Amherst, the exclusive seller of new Lincolns in Buffalo, where their concierge service means they will bring it to you for a test drive anywhere in Western New York.
Introducing Fidelity Income Planning. We look at how much you've saved, how much you'll need, and help you build a straightforward plan to generate income, even when you're not working. A plan that gives you the chance to grow your savings and create cash flow that lasts. Plus, you can start, stop, or adjust your plan at any time. Talk to us today so we can help you go from saving to living. Fidelity Brokerage Services, member NYSE, SIPC.
For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
It's just one of the biggest events on the football calendar. The Draft. Round 1 Thursday, April 29th at 8 p.m. Hear full coverage on WGR Sports Radio 550 and follow every story at WGR550.com and WGR on the Odyssey app.
Coverage of the NFL Draft on WGR is being brought to you by Taco Bell. Taco Bell is now hiring. Text BBG-TB to 85000. Message and data rates may apply. By the Quilted Squirrel, the marketing agency that believes your brand matters. By Outlet Liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. And by Fiegel Car and Joyce, your border attorneys.
What's up, everybody? Nick Costos here at the Bet River Sports Betting Minute, brought to you by Bet River Sportsbook, your hometown sportsbook.
Hey, it's Ken Barkley for Nick Costos. Tonight in pro baseball, St. Louis takes on Cincinnati. Cincinnati a small road favorite, about -110, and the total's around 7.5. These teams played to start the season and combined for 45 runs over 3 games. The over hit in every game. I like the Cardinals offense to bounce back tonight, and I like the over at 7.5.
That's it for this Bet River Sports Betting Minute, brought to you by Bet River Sportsbook, your hometown sportsbook. I'm Nick Costos. Keep it locked here for more throughout the day.
Is online casino and sports betting not yet legal in your state? BetRivers.net offers all of your favorite casino games and sportsbook free. Visit BetRivers.net and create your account today. It's 100% free to sign up and play. BetRivers.net offers a variety of games like slots, table games with live dealers, and so much more. You can share the excitement with other players online anywhere, anytime from your desktop or mobile device. Don't miss out on the fun. Create your free account at BetRivers.net today. BetRivers.net is a play for fun site for entertainment only. Must be 21 or older.
This spring, from the creators of New York Lottery Scratch-Off games, comes a movie-themed ticket called $1 Million Premiere, which explains why I'm talking like this. Play today for a chance to win $1 million. Oh, and did I mention non-winning tickets get a surprise sequel? Enter the Second Chance promotion at nylpremiere.com for a chance to win cash and movie-themed prizes. New York Lottery's $1 Million Premiere, now playing in a store near you. Rated 18+. You must be 18 years or older to purchase a lottery ticket. Please play responsibly.
Hey, New York, COVID-19 vaccines are available now in your neighborhood. Let's protect the people we love and get back to the things we miss the most. The vaccines are safe, effective, and free. It's easy to make an appointment at ny.gov/getvaccinated or by calling 833-NYS4VAX. That's the number 4VAX, or checking in at your local pharmacy or health department. A message from the New York State Health Department. Let's vaccinate New York.
Napa know-how.
At Napa, you don't need to be a magician to pull 20% savings out of thin air. All you need is a bucket. Yep, you can magically save on 3 or more items with a $2.99 Napa bucket. So use whatever magical catchphrase you want, like Abraca Bucket, or Alica Savings, or Bippity Boppity Bucket, and save 20% today. Quality parts, helpful people. That's Napa Know-How.
Napa know-how.
At participating locations, exclusions apply. May not be combined with other offers. Offer ends 4/30/21.
It's crunchy!
Creamy!
Sweet.
Salty. Nature Valley sweet and salty peanut bars, bursting with crunchy peanuts, dipped in creamy nut butter coating.
Delicious.
Nature Valley.
Rachel's Roundup is back.
All this month when you dine at any Rachel's Mediterranean Grill, just round up your check to help kids and moms at Oshai Children's Hospital.
Proceeds from Rachel's Roundup will be donated to the Kiss Cares for Kids Radiothon to benefit Oshai Children's Hospital.
It's just one of the biggest events on the football calendar. The Draft. Round 1 Thursday, April 29th at 8 p.m. Hear full coverage on WGR Sports Radio 550 and follow every story at WGR550.com and WGR on the Odyssey app.
Coverage of the NFL Draft on WGR is being brought to you by Taco Bell. Taco Bell is now hiring. Text BBG-TB to 85000. Message and data rates may apply. By the Quilted Squirrel, the marketing agency that believes your brand matters. By Outlet Liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. And by Fiegel Car and Joyce, your border attorneys.
Listen to WGR Sports Radio 550 at home or at the office. Ask your smart speaker to play WGR 550.
I would either stay put or trade down. New England, of course, is one of those teams that people have been connecting to the quarterback. It becomes a thing of like, would they trade up to 9 or 10 or 11 or so, like if Mac Jones starts falling down there or whatever. I think there's a better shot that they actually trade down. It's very similar to last season, when the quarterback need at that time was just as acute, and at that time, they, instead of going after any of the quarterbacks, they traded down and ended up taking Duggar. I think it's a similar situation here. We saw what it would take to get from 12 to 3. The cost of that was 2 future first-round picks and a current third. That's just not something that Belichick does. If it was maybe to like 11 or so, if one of those guys fell, it could open the possibility.
That is Thor Nystrom from NBC Sports Edge talking about, what we're doing, which is a mock draft. Presented by the Quilted Squirrel today, the marketing agency who believes your brand matters. I am the Bulldog. Mike Schopp is off today. We've got Sal Capaccio, Sneaky Joe DiBiase, and Nate Geary, who is kind enough to make himself available on standby in case Mike was not going to be available. We were anticipating perhaps a problem. Mike received his second shot of the COVID vaccination yesterday and thought he was going to make it, but couldn't pull it together. So we're doing a mock draft without him, and boy, we are all sad. So far, no big surprises. Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson to the Jets. Trey Lance, I guess, sort of a surprise to San Francisco, although we knew quarterback. Kyle Pitts, the tight end from Florida to Atlanta. And before we went to break, Sal for the Bengals selected Jamar Chase, the wide receiver out of LSU, who did not play last year. But, of course, when he last was on the field, he was a part of that dynamic, record-breaking offense that got Joe Burrow drafted first overall by the Bengals. So a sensible choice there. So we are at pick 6, and Sneaky Joe, you are up for the Miami Dolphins.
I think I told Sal this in the break. If the Bengals do go Jamar Chase and the draft falls this way, Pitts to 4 to Atlanta, I think this pick gets actually difficult for Miami because
Yes, it
if
does.
it's Chase or if it's Pitts just sitting there, like I think it's kind of easy for them. But I think they need the one comment that Armando Salguero made with us on the afternoon show a couple months ago, that the Dolphins have all this depth. They have all these good players. They don't have any stars. And to me, they probably sit at 6. If this is the way the draft falls, though, and Justin Fields is on the board, I wonder who might come calling to try to trade up. Maybe that's Denver. I don't know who else could be in the running for that, but I think that would be in play for a trade down. If they sit at 6, though, I'm going to put Jalen Waddle here.
All right.
Waddle's got the speed, 4.37 40 time. I think you could really have a debate about who they would go with and who should go there between Waddle and Devontae Smith. But when I think of Tua, I think of a guy that right now is throwing the ball short and is not really stretching the field. And Waddle, to me, is a guy where if I get it to him in space, he is a guy that can make 3 or 4 guys miss, and he could take it to the house. So that breakaway speed and that yards after the catch ability is why I'm going Waddle at 6 to Miami.
I like it. I think there's a chance, I would need odds to bet it, that if the Bengals don't take Chase, if they take Sewell, I might like the chances of Waddle being the first receiver chosen. Just because you know how NFL teams are, this might not be smart, but Chase didn't play last year, right? So, and Waddle barely played. I mean, he got hurt, so maybe that's kind of a washout, I guess. But I've been very high on Waddle for, just I think really the game he got hurt in, even before that. I like the skill set a lot. I think there's just a dynamic guy there that can play all over the field for you. And I definitely think he'll be chosen before his Heisman-winning teammate Devontae Smith. And like I say, if the Bengals don't take Burrow's LSU teammate, I think there's a chance that Waddle could be the first guy off the board at that position. So I agree with Joe. I would put Waddle there. It does really point out a flaw in our exercise here because we've got quarterbacks that are falling here, and in reality, there's no way Justin Fields is getting this far in this draft, I don't think. And maybe even Mac Jones, but this is how it's going to go. So some teams that are picking, from here on in are going to be pretty comfortable with the way the board's falling in our exercise anyway, because I had no way to figure out how we could make trades. So anyway,
let me just say this about the Dolphins. Obviously, I think we're all saying this. This pick is about Tua and getting him weapons.
Yeah,
That's what this pick is about. This pick is about letting your young quarterback grow, who there's been rumblings about maybe they aren't completely sold on. Well, it's the same thing the Bills did when they went out and got receivers for Josh Allen. Like, we need to help him, and then we can evaluate him more. And I agree with you guys. Pitts would be number 1 option for them. Smith would be the 4th option, and then either Chase or Waddle. And I like this too. I agree with all of you that Waddle would be the pick here.
Let me just say that I think Devontae Smith has a little bit more. Bulldog, you're talking about kind of a team and maybe a guy that they like more than another guy, and that may not be a consensus across the league. And like everyone's big board, you would have Waddle, you'd have Chase above Smith, and I agree with that. But I think the one interesting thing that you mentioned, Joe, about what Waddle can do sort of in the short area space, I think that is Devontae Smith's game. I don't view Smith as a guy that's going to be a traditional on the outside, running deep routes, kind of running the full route tree. I think this offense, as much as they want to change, I think that they're going to have to kind of be a little similar to what they were last year, which is those short screen passes, getting wide receivers involved at the line of scrimmage, yards after catch. You're describing Devontae Smith. I mean, that is what he did in college. So I think for me, you talk about pairing Smith with Tua, I think that's really the best marriage. And I know that Will Fuller's only there on a year deal, so you're not going to not take Waddle because you have Will Fuller there for under a 1-year deal. But it feels a little redundant to me. And I think if you want a guy that I think is exactly the kind of player you want to match with Tua, considering his skill set, it's Smith all day. So, but I could totally buy Chase or Waddle in this spot if either were available.
All right, the Lions are up at pick number 7, and that is your turn, Nate.
Yeah, so you guys really stole my thunder here. And, man, this is, again, talk about a worst-case scenario for the Detroit Lions. I think Waddell's their guy all day. I think you can maybe make the argument that Sewell falling all the way to 7 makes a lot of sense for them. Just continue to, football guys like Dan Campbell.
You don't think Justin Fields falling to them at 7 is a dream, though? If I'm a Detroit fan, it is.
if you're a Detroit fan, I agree, and they are not like long-term financially obligated to Jared Goff. This could be a one-year thing for Goff, and they could be gone. I'm really struggling with this pick based on who's available. Like I said, Jalen Waddle was my guy here, and I'm gonna do something a little crazy. And for the 7th overall pick, the Detroit Lions are selecting Rashad Bateman from Minnesota.
Okay.
Ahead of Devontae Smith.
Let me see if I can scroll down here far enough to find him. Okay, there he is. 27th ranked prospect at the Draft Network. Nate Geary says, choose him 7th. Hey, it's not crazy. The Lions, I mean, I don't know. They might have some intel on this guy. Maybe he's a kneecap eater. I mean, you gotta go with what we know. So that maybe that makes a lot of sense for them.
Listen, no matter who the Lions take, I think that should happen. Every single time it's written up, like, about the description of the player, it doesn't matter who they take. It should just say the player's name and then dash kneecap eater. That's all it should say. Then
100%.
that's the reason the Lions take him. I had
one thing I really wanted out of this exercise, and it was to be able to choose for the Lions. And I didn't get it.
You didn't need to, though. You did
but
good.
you know,
Nate
Nate did a fine job. It's all good. Yeah.
On my mock earlier today on my podcast, I had Waddle also going to the Lions. I agree with you, Nate. I think Waddle would be their dream scenario. I don't agree with you, though, that they would just move on from Jared Goff that quickly. I don't think you give up on Matthew Stafford and make that trade and then suddenly go, oh, yeah, Jared Goff, by the way, we have your replacement in the building. I just can't see them doing that.
I agree. It's why I didn't go Fields here. As much as I agree with Joe,
Yep.
I think that's the Lions fan. Lion fans would probably boo any pick not named Justin Fields off the stage in this particular instance and kind of how this board's playing out. But here's the interesting thing about Bateman. I think Bateman taking the year off last year, had he played in that offense, I mean, when it was him and Tyler Johnson as the 1-2 receivers in Minnesota last year, Tyler Johnson had a really nice rookie season in Tampa Bay, but the talk was about Bateman being a top 10, top 15 pick this year. He takes the season off, and I think for a lot of draft Twitter, that brought his value down. I still think teams view him as right there with some of these guys in this draft. So it's a little bit of a reach, there's no doubt about it, but I think if they're viewing as they need a really legit wide receiver 1, I don't think that's Devonta Smith. I think Devonta Smith is a nice player, but is a wide receiver 2 in your system, where I think Bateman does have wide receiver 1 potential.
I love the player, though. I do.
All right, we are on to pick 8, and that's me. We're actually on schedule, which is a little mind-boggling because I would have bet heavily against that, even though I'm sort of in charge of it. So far, so good. Pick 8, Carolina. I mean, here's a spot where I know they traded for Sam Darnold, but the way this is falling, come on, like they would take Justin Fields or someone. But I'm not going to do it. I'm gonna play the game here like what I think they'll do because they traded for Sam Darnold. I think I like a tackle here. I like and they've got their pick. So a couple of mocks I saw had them taking maybe the 2nd or 3rd rated offensive lineman. I guess I'm going to put Sewell on the Carolina Panthers here at 8 overall.
Dream scenario. Big time need. Best player at the position in the draft.
How much does Sam Darnold? How much do them trading for Darnold, not trading a 1st round pick, still having the ability to stay here with Fields on the board? Bulldog, how much in your mind is it just a waste of a pick to trade for Sam Darnold and then immediately take Justin Fields? They've given themselves the flexibility to do it, but it doesn't mean that they should.
I think if they thought they could afford, if they could find a trade partner to get a guy like that, I think they maybe wouldn't have made the Darnold trade. I
think we all agree too that we're going on pick 9 here. Fields is probably not falling to 9.
No, I know, right? That's why I'm sort of conflicted in doing this the way I'm doing it here, but I'm just trying to follow it as best I can. I mean, I don't think they're in the quarterback market anymore. So even though Fields is there, I don't know, guys. We all right with Sewell to Carolina?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I just want to say too. Remember the 5th-year option there for Sam Darnold. I think they made a 2-year commitment. So I mean, to me, they're not taking a quarterback. They're not.
Okay.
I agree.
Even if you might think about it, I think they've already kind of made their bed there.
All right. We'll review the picks on the other side of the break so far. We are to pick 9. Denver is on the clock, and we're back to the top. So Sal will be picking for Denver when we get back after the break. You are listening to a mock draft here on WGR, streaming live on the WGR Facebook page via StreamYard with Sal Capaccio, Nate Geary, and Sneaky Joe DiBiase. I am the Bulldog, and this is WGR.
Radio.com is now Odyssey. Download the Odyssey app and listen to WGR and all the sports, news, music, and podcasts that move you. Brought to you by Geico. Local office, West Seneca.
good chance Kyle Pitts is there. I do think the Bengals and just kind of how they make decisions, they're going to end up pairing Jamar Chase back with Joe Burrow. I just think that's what they want to ultimately do, is try to appease Joe Burrow in any way possible they can. And so then at that point, I think number 4 is going to be a quarterback. I think someone's going to trade back up for a quarterback. So I do think that there's a very good shot Kyle Pitts is there, and I think that would be the pick for Miami if he is.
That is the voice of Mike Renner from Pro Football Focus, appearing with Howard and Jeremy on our morning show here on WGR. You're tuned into here on WGR this afternoon, our first ever full 32-pick first-round mock draft. I am the Bulldog, along with Sal Capaccio, Nate Geary, and Sneaky Joe DiBiase. We are through 8 picks so far. The Jaguars get Trevor Lawrence. The Jets get Zach Wilson. Trey Lance goes to San Francisco, so quarterbacks 1, 2, 3. And now Justin Fields and Trey Lance are falling, because we're not having trades in our exercise, so that's how it goes. The Falcons got Kyle Pitts, the tight end out of Florida, at 4. Jamar Chase, receiver from LSU, goes to Cincinnati at 5. Jalen Waddle to the Dolphins at 6. Rashad Bateman, receiver to the Lions, at 7. And Penei Sewell goes to the Panthers at pick 8. All offensive players so far, guys. Do we think that it's likely that this is how the actual draft will play out? Not necessarily with the same players in the exact same order, but as far as being this far into it with no defenders off the board so far.
10.
I do. I think this is a very offensive-heavy draft at the top for sure. I think that could very well happen.
Yeah, I think it's very possible we don't see the first defensive player taken off the board until Dallas picks at 10 in real life, not just in any mock draft. I think it's totally viable.
All right. Sal, you are up for the Broncos. Back to the top of our batting order here, and pick 9.
Okay, well, first of all, let me say Mike Renner must have the exact same contacts in Cincy that I do. Good job, Mike. I'm glad that you were able to, get on Jamar Chase there as I did, and people thought that was wrong, but that's what's going to happen. All right, so I'm going to end this Justin Fields madness now, guys. I'm going to take Justin Fields, the quarterback for Ohio State, out of Ohio State, put him on the Denver Broncos. This pick, of course, Justin Fields is a dynamic quarterback. He has a chance to be really good in the NFL, but this pick is really maybe even more about Drew Lock. It might be more about who they have right now and want to move on from eventually. And let's face it, I mean, the Broncos, they have to take a swing because they have Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert in their division. They're not going to compete with the Chiefs or the Chargers anytime soon unless they find their Patrick Mahomes or Justin Herbert. And I don't know if Justin Fields can be, but at least it's a swing. Justin Fields, the slide stops here. He's out of the green room. He's coming to the podium. He goes to the Denver Broncos.
And I like the fit. They've got good young weapons. Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Noah Fant. Like they've got guys for him to come right in and throw the football to. Cortland Sutton. I think that they might also do this, like even move up if they have to. Their GM, George Patton, continually this offseason says they need to bring in competition for Drew Lock, but he hasn't done anything.
They haven't done it.
Like, I keep thinking, maybe they'll trade like a 5th for Gardner Minshew or something, and he'll just be like competition. But they could have done that in the last 2-3 months. So I wonder if they're waiting for the draft and if they have a big play up their sleeves in the top 10. Yeah,
I think Fields is the pick. I think they're a candidate to move up in the actual draft next Thursday and pull a quarterback. Unless they're one of these teams that will convince themselves that because Josh Allen took such a dramatic step between years 2 and 3 that they want to give Drew Lock a chance to demonstrate the same thing. But, I mean, you're talking about nowhere near the athletic ceiling on Drew Lock that Allen has. So I think that's probably a reach. I think they'd like a quarterback. And in this, in this mock draft, it falls pretty nicely for them. All right. So we agree there. Nate, you agree Justin Fields would be the pick if it fell this way?
Oh, man. I mean, yeah, at 9, I think George Patton is thinking, how the heck did we end up with probably either the first or second best quarterback in this draft at the 9th overall pick? Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer for Denver. As a Drew Lock fan, he just has not shown even the glimpses that we saw Josh Allen show in his rookie season. Not to mention, really, I thought Drew Lock looked better his rookie year. I thought he took a step back in year 2. So anytime that happens, anytime you have a new GM who's empowered to make decisions like George Patton is, I think the quarterback is 100% on the board here.
All right. Can we squeeze in pick 10 before we wrap up the hour, Joe?
Yeah, let's do it quick. We can talk quick about it.
Let's do it. And I don't need to talk a ton about this guy because I don't know a lot about him as a avid fantasy player. Not doing homework on Patrick Surtain. But the Cowboys need a cornerback. According to Draft Network, he's the top cornerback on the board left. J.C. Horn, I have seen mocked ahead of him sometimes, but normally it's Surtain above him. I think Nate is right that 10 could be the first defensive player off the board, and I think Dallas, they're heavily favored. I think minus 300, BetOnline has them to pick defense at 10, so I think Surtain is their guy here.
All right. Very good. Nate Geary, you will be on the clock when we get back after the break here at the top of the hour with the Giants pick at 11. So hang in there. You're listening to a 32-pick first-round mock draft here on WGR. We've got Sal Capaccio, Nate Geary, Sneaky Joe DiBiase. I am the Bulldog. Thank you for hanging with us. Hope if you are listening in your car right now or at work or whatever, you can check us out on the WGR Facebook page. We're streaming all 3 hours of this draft. We are through 1 hour, still 2 hours to go. So hang in there. Be right back after this for more on WGR.
Listen Friday afternoons on WGR for Ready, Set, Bet with Seneca Sports Lounge and Mike Schopp. Get in the game at any Seneca Sports Lounge.
Protect your privacy online for free with DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo, privacy simplified.
At Fisher Investments, we do things differently, and other money managers don't understand why.
Because our way works great for us.
But it may not work for your clients. That's
It's Mike Schopp.
Excuse me?
And the Bulldog.
What's going on with Cortland Sutton?
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
All right, thanks for hanging with us this afternoon. Mike Schopp is off today. I am the Bulldog, and you've tuned in today to our very first ever full first-round mock draft. Got myself, Sneaky Joe DiBiase, Sal Capaccio, of course, as well as Nate Geary on board for this event. Nate pinch hitting for Mike, who's out sick. This mock draft on our show is presented by the Quilted Squirrel, the marketing agency who believes your brand matters. We have made it through here 10 picks so far. To recap, nothing really that surprising. Nate's gone off. Nate's gone off on his own a couple times here. Actually, there's a couple of surprises, both from Nate. But here's the rundown so far. Trevor Lawrence to Jacksonville, 1 overall. Zach Wilson, another quarterback, to the Jets. Trey Lance goes to San Francisco at 3. That's one of Nate's surprises. Kyle Pitts, the tight end, goes to Atlanta at 4. Jamar Chase, wide receiver, to the Bengals at 5. Jalen Waddle, receiver from Alabama, goes to Miami at 6. And then Nate, again, going out in the wilderness for Rashad Bateman, receiver out of Minnesota, at 7. Penei Sewell, the offensive tackle from Oregon, goes 8 to Carolina. Justin Fields falls all the way to 9 for the Broncos. And Patrick Surtain, the second, goes to Dallas, the corner. First defensive player at number 10. And that is where we're at. Nate is back on the clock for the New York Giants at 11.
So I think for me, Bulldog, 2 players in play here, Devontae Smith and Jalen Phillips, the edge out of Miami. I think those are really the 2 areas that the Giants need the most in terms of what they need on their roster. You could also make an argument that J.C. Horn, kind of the second best available corner in the draft, maybe he's an option here for the New York Giants. But I think ultimately what Dave Gettleman decides to do is he decides to go with the 11th pick. He ends up going
Come on, he picks a lineman. Come on, Nate.
You would think
he's going to go with a running back.
The running back
right,
or
he's going to pick Najee
guard.
Harris.
Like they can take the first guard off the board here at 11. No, I'm going Devontae Smith. This is his opportunity to get a full look at Daniel Jones. Now you've got who's the guy from the Lions they just picked up? Why can't I think of his name as the wide receiver?
Kenny
Galladay, right. So they got Kenny Galladay on one side, Devonta Smith on another. They still have some of the pieces in wide receivers that they'd been sort of Sterling Shepard is another guy. They still got some pieces at tight end, and their offensive line is okay. So I think Devonta Smith gives Dave Gettleman and the New York Giants organization an actual look to see if Daniel Jones can be the guy there in New York long term.
You know, I actually really secretly hope, and I think it could happen, that the Giants take J.C. Horn, because they once had another cornerback named J.C. Horn. So I think that would be really cool that they had J.C. Horn at corner, and then now they have J.C. Horn at corner.
Right, Jason C. Horn, right, yeah. Right.
Yes, right. Yeah, Jason, J.C., right, J.C. Horn.
No, I know. I just want, when you said it, I'm like, I don't remember this player, and then I just thought about it. Yeah, okay, I remember him now. Yeah. Didn't he tear his knee running a kickback in the preseason?
After he even said, and people said, why are you putting back there? And
right.
Like the Giants came out and said, well, there's really not much of a chance something like that happens. And it literally happened like the first time that he did that. Nate and Joe, do you guys remember Jason C. Horn?
No,
I do.
Not at all.
I do.
Okay.
I'm a little. I think I am just old enough older than Joe to know that. And yes, I'm a big. I do know Jason C. Horn.
Okay, that's cool. And by the way, I'm also. I know you guys can talk about this. I'm also very pumped that I think Joe, you do have the 12th pick, right, Joe?
Yes.
I'm very pumped.
No, sorry,
you have the 12th pick.
No, I'm up.
Okay, sorry, because I wanted your brother to be really mad at you no matter what you did for the Giants, just so you know.
Lou Eas is definitely on my mind here as I am prepared to pick.
And all the receivers are off the board. Yeah, this is good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at their team needs, and receivers is at the front. Tight end is next. I could draft the second tight end for Louis. I think he'd probably love that. Well, I don't know. It's a tough call. I think I'll go with Micah Parsons, the linebacker out of Penn State, because I think that will make Lou mad. And it's reasonably credible. At least one mock draft I read, maybe even Chris Trapasso's at CBS Sportsline, had Parsons mocked to the Eagles. It's maybe not their biggest need, but, stay in state. He's a Penn State guy. Bring him to Philadelphia. So I will say Parsons is the pick here at 12 for the Eagles. What do you guys think the Eagles are going to do?
Well, they don't have any linebackers I've ever heard of, so I like this pick.
Nick Sirianni is... Go ahead, Nate.
No, I was going to actually make an argument that Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and if I'm looking at this draft, knowing what I know, I think Owusu-Koramoah is actually going to be the first linebacker off the board. I know a lot. Listen, there's no denying that I think Micah Parsons is the best linebacker in the draft. I think he's a top 7, top 8 pick. I think he's that good. I think his off-the-field stuff is egregious enough and concerning enough for teams. I don't have any inside knowledge of this. I would be willing to bet that based on some of the off-the-field stuff, Micah Parsons is off a couple of teams' boards entirely. That wouldn't shock me. I think Parsons is a really likely drop-back candidate. I think between 15 and 20, even though he's definitely in that top 7, 8, 9 kind of guy, I think he is the one true candidate of the top 15 players, top 8 players that will fall in this first round. But I don't have any problems with the pick at all.
Shout out to the Sirianni family, great football family down in Jamestown. He's from there, Southwestern High School, of course, and good to see him getting a shot as a head coach in the NFL. But his background is offensive coaching, quarterbacks coach, wide receivers coach, offensive coordinator. He also has Jalen Hurts as a quarterback. They haven't even been willing to kind of say he's the starter, but they made moves to basically set themselves up to move on from Hurts in case he's not. They have to know. They have to find out. So to me, guys, they're going to go wide receiver if they can. I think they go skill position, help out the offense, help out Jalen Hurts. I think they have to have enough intel on Jalen Hurts at the end of this season to make a decision.
I think we're all neglecting to mention that it really depends on who's best at rock, paper, scissors here. So that's what it's going to come down to.
Shame on us.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, so Parsons is the pick at 12, and that brings us back to the top of our batting order, and Sal Capaccio choosing at 13 for the Los Angeles Chargers.
This is an easy pick for me, actually, looking at the board the way it's fallen, guys. Because the Bengals didn't want to grab the tackle to protect their young quarterback, but the Chargers certainly will, and they're going to take Rashawn Slater, the offensive tackle, out of Northwestern in my mock here, because Justin Herbert, the offensive rookie of the year in the National Football League, they have weapons there. They have running backs. They are a little light on the offensive line. They need to protect this kid, make sure he stays upright. I like their roster a lot. There's not a ton of holes. Of course, they could use some things, but I think Justin Herbert, not that he was beat up a lot, but just making sure. You got a nice offensive tackle here. I think he's rated by most people as one of the top 10 or so players in this draft. So I'm gonna take Slater here, the offensive tackle for the LA Chargers.
I've got no arguments on that. I think that's the 100% the move. And I think not only is it the right move in this mock draft, I think it's a home run pick for Brandon Staley and as a first-year head coach. Get to Sale's point, I think that's a defense that has every piece that you can imagine. I think if they're healthy, that team, that the Chargers are likely a team we're not talking enough about in the AFC as a team that could absolutely be a wild card and maybe even a fight for that division. It would surprise me if they're in a legitimate fight for that division with Kansas City on top, but I think they're a legitimate wild card team when healthy, and I think Slater is 100% the right pick.
Yeah. Our buddies at the Draft Network project him his ideal role as center eventually. Maybe predicting that he's maybe going to flounder on the outside and eventually he'll end up middle. But whatever, he's got position flexibility that can get a guy drafted early anyway. Of course, he played tackle. He played all over the place, but center is where they say his ideal fit is anyway. Just want to point that out. But it's not to say he won't work out as a prospect, one way or the other. Just maybe eventually it may end up not being at tackle. All right, so Slater is the pick there. Sneaky Joe, you are on the clock for the Vikings at number 14.
Should I do it? I kind of want to.
Don't do it, Joe. I know exactly what you're going to do, and don't do it.
I think I know what you're thinking.
I know exactly what he's thinking. I've worked alongside Joe too long to not know exactly what he's going to do with this pick.
Yeah,
he wants to keep someone away from someone else.
Yeah,
that's right. No, that's right.
That's a side prize here. I'm going to put Mac Jones on the Minnesota Vikings at 14. I think that offense is so perfect for him. It is a ton of play action. It is running the football. It's the perfect prototypical offense for him to come into. I don't think he would play if this were to be the pick by the Vikings at 14 in his first year because Kirk Cousins is there. It's a $41 million dead cap number. He's still good, but next year they can get out of that contract. He's 34 years old. There's got to be a next coming at some point for Minnesota.
Next coming of Kirk Cousins. No
and
doubt.
that
No
would
doubt
be
about
this. I mean, if they like Kirk Cousins, here you go. Here's Mac Jones, but he's 12 years younger. So I think every year, there's a surprise team that goes for a quarterback, and I'm going to put the Vikings on Mac Jones here.
And even though he is considered by most to be maybe the most pro-ready, if you will, debatably, of these quarterbacks, he doesn't have to play right away, as you point out, right? I mean, that's not something you need to do if you're a team. They do have Kirk Cousins. What's interesting is it's not Mac Jones. When I did my mock earlier, I did my mock on my podcast, I had the Vikings taking Trey Lance, so I'm down with this. I think that this very well could be the position they go with.
I think it's sort of funny how most pro-ready sort of, I feel like in this in this context, most pro-ready is synonymous with least talented.
Right. Yeah. You're right. Usually it is.
Like least dynamic, anyway, at least. I mean, I don't know. Like, talent
lowest
is
ceiling,
so.
for sure, right?
Right. But good. I mean, Joe, you've kept Mac Jones away from New England, so I think we can all appreciate that in all this so far. And that brings us again to Nate, and you are up for the Patriots, Nate.
So obviously, if I'm Bill Belichick, I'm butthurt about the fact that Mac Jones just goes 14, one pick in front of me. I don't really feel like I've got a real good second option here. So now that Jimmy G conversation is likely happening while I'm making this pick. So for me, I think this is a no-brainer for Bill Belichick. If you're talking about one player, if you looked out through this entire first round of the 32 guys that are going to go in the first round, I think there's one player that fits New England, in particular with Bill Belichick, better than any other player in the draft. And it's Notre Dame's Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. They need help at linebacker. They're aging there. I know they bring Kyle Van Noy back, but this is a player that can play in the box. He could be viewed as a safety. Adding him with Kyle Duggar, you have two dynamic, versatile box defenders that can potentially have the have the flexibility to move in as an off-ball safety as well. But I think Koramoah is such a good fit in New England, and that would really, and frankly, concern me a little bit with what the flexibility options and lineup and schematic options that Bill Belichick would have with Koramoah in the lineup.
Yeah, I would have to think that this is a disaster for New England if they can't get their hands on a quarterback.
Probably.
I mean, maybe disaster is strong, but do we agree that they are ripe to move up to try to make a move on Mac Jones or Trey Lance or even Justin Fields if it falls, the right way for them?
Or trade for Jimmy G, but you're right. I think they want a new quarterback, whether it's one of the young guys or make that deal. I agree. But I do think the linebacker is a very possible, pick for them. And however you want to rank them, Nate's right. I think Bill Belichick likes those guys who can do a lot of those things that he just mentioned. So that would be a good fit. But they need offensive help, guys. That's a thing. I mean, their best wide receiver. What do they have at wide receiver after Edelman's gone now? They have Olszewski, Nelson Aguilar, and Kendrick Bourne. I mean, that's still got to be something they have to think about.
Yeah, I think that's right. And what's left at receiver at this point? If they wanted to go that route, who's the top-rated receiver on the board? I'm scrolling through.
Elijah Moore.
Moore, yeah, probably. All right.
And he'd be a replacement right there for he'd slide right into where Edelman was. I mean, you could do that right there.
Yeah.
Right. All right. All right. We're through 15. We can keep plowing ahead here. We got time in this segment. I guess I'm on the clock here with the Cardinals at number 16.
Oh,
and
what like the board playing out like this for Arizona, who just lost Patrick Peterson. Tell me a better scenario. Tell me a better scenario for them than this right now.
Right. I don't know. You guys can tell me if you have a preference one way or the other. I mean, we've got a couple of guys that I think warrant being picked here at least, if not more than two. But Horn or Farley, but one of the corners for sure. I guess I'll put J.C. Horn in here for Arizona. I'm not well versed enough to tell you about scheme fit, if one or the other is better for what Arizona plays or not. But the position certainly is one of need, like you're saying, with Peterson leaving. So I'll say J.C. Horn is the pick at 16 for Arizona.
I think the only question would be, I think Farley might be considered the most talented, but the injuries, he's got some questions there. So, if you want to go with the safer pick, I think that's perfectly fine.
That's where I would go, Sal, myself, with Caleb Farley out of Virginia Tech. I think, he's a good candidate for a slide, but I think without the surgery and without some recurring back injuries that he's had, I like him a lot as the first corner taken in this draft without the injuries. So, yeah, knowing that, I think maybe that's the move. But, hey, maybe they're scared away by the medicals. I think J.C. Horn is just fine as a I don't think it's a consolation prize. I think it's a damn good pick. So I think J.C. Horn's just fine for them.
I want to make the point of, because Brandon Bean talked about this, guys, I think it's super important for everybody to remember in this draft that teams weren't able to get the same kind of medical information they normally do on players. And teams are going to cross guys off the board, but they might not have otherwise, just because there's still more questions that they haven't been able to answer, which is going to force some guys to slide. You could see a guy that starts sliding, you're like, why is that? And the answer might simply be the teams just didn't feel comfortable enough with the medical. He may be fine, but they just couldn't answer that question.
All right, we are through 16 picks here. When we get back after a quick timeout here, Sal Capaccio will be on the clock picking for the Oakland Raiders at number 17. I'll review right now, because we've got a little bit of time, what the picks are so far. 1 overall, Jacksonville takes Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback out of Clemson. Zach Wilson goes second to the Jets out of BYU. Trey Lance, the quarterback from North Dakota State, goes to the 49ers at 3. Kyle Pitts, tight end from Florida, is Falcon at number 4. Jamar Chase, receiver from LSU, to the Bengals at 5. Jalen Waddle goes 6 to Miami. He's out of Alabama. Rashad Bateman goes 7 overall, receiver out of University of Minnesota. Sewell, the offensive tackle from Oregon, goes to Carolina at 8. Justin Fields falls all the way to 9 in our exercise. Denver gets him there. Patrick Surtain, the second cornerback, goes to Dallas at number 10. Devontae Smith, wide receiver out of Alabama, goes number 11 to the Giants. Micah Parsons, linebacker, to the Eagles at 12. Rashawn Slater, offensive tackle, at 13 to the Chargers. Mac Jones of Alabama, quarterback, goes to Minnesota. We've got Jeremiah Owusu-Karamoa, linebacker from Notre Dame, goes 15 to the Patriots. And J.C. Horn, 16 overall, cornerback out of South Carolina, goes to Arizona. We'll take a timeout here, along with Sal Capaccio, Nate Geary, Sneaky Joe DiBiase. I am the Bulldog, and you are listening to our mock draft, which is presented by our friends at the Quilted Squirrel, the marketing agency who believes your brand matters. We'll be back for more of this mock draft after this on WGR.
Want to talk to Schopp and the Bulldog? Call or text us now at 716-80.
in this offense? In what world would a guy who can stretch the field as a runner, a guy who can create when a play falls apart, a guy who defenses have to account for when he's on the field as a receiver?
All right, I admit it. I packed the court yesterday just a little bit. We had Marcel. I was away for a week, so I had to put up with the fact that Mike and Joe were like just crushing the idea of Travis Etienne to the Bills at 30. So I reached out to Marcel Louis-Jacques, knowing he was on Team Etienne. He's the ESPN.com Bills beat guy, and did a great job laying out his reasons why he would like the Bills to select Travis Etienne out of Clemson at 30. But we got a ways to go yet. We're a little more than halfway to the Bills selection. We've made 16 picks so far in our very first ever WGR full first round mock draft. This is presented by our friends at Quilted Squirrel, the marketing agency who believes your brand matters. I'm the Bulldog. Mike Schopp is out sick today. Pinch hitting for him is Nate Geary. Sal Capaccio, of course, is along with us. And Sneaky Joe DiBiase. The four of us are making our way through round one of the NFL draft. We are not allowed to make trades, so the quarterback picture maybe got a little screwy as we went through the early picks. Justin Fields, for example, fell all the way to 9 for the Denver Broncos. Mac Jones just went at 14 to Minnesota. So it's not a perfect system, but we're having some fun with it, anyways. And if you are listening currently to the radio or on the Odyssey app, know that you can also find us on Facebook Live. The WGR Facebook page is streaming this through StreamYard, so you can see our pretty faces while we're making these picks. Where we left off was at number 17, the Las Vegas Raiders. I may have called them the Oakland Raiders as we went to break, I'm thinking now. The Las Vegas Raiders, Sal Capaccio is up for that pick. Their needs, according to our friends at the Draft Network, are offensive tackle, interior defensive line, and linebacker. So we'll see what Sal makes of this pick with the Raiders.
So the Raiders, this is actually a really good spot for them to fill a need, but it could be a little bit tricky here. Let's just take a moment to think about what they've done this offseason, though. I don't know why, but they basically got rid of 3 of their starting offensive linemen, guys. They traded Trent Brown, right tackle. He went to New England. They traded Gabe Jackson to Seattle. They traded Rodney Hudson to Arizona, the center. Gabe was a guard. Gabe Jackson, a guard. Rodney Hudson, the center. So they got rid of all 3 of those guys. They feel they have competent backups. That's fine. They still have Colton Miller at left tackle. But on the right side, just yesterday, I believe it was, maybe even today, Mike Mayock, their GM, he mentioned maybe having a practice squad player as their starting right tackle who they think could be that guy. That's never good. It's never good when you're saying, oh, we have confidence in this practice squad player to make that jump. The problem is there's not a true left tackle really remaining that high in this draft, but there is a very good tackle. I'm sorry, true right tackle left. There's a very good tackle in Christian Darrisaw. I'm going to take him and say I can move him to the right side. He doesn't have a lot of experience there. That's the problem, but that's okay. If I'm going to keep Colton Miller there, who I just extended, I could put Darrisaw on the right, and we'll figure it out. But he's a very good football player. But I think this is a glaring need for them right now. After all of their offensive line changes, they do need a right tackle. Darrisaw is not a right tackle, but really no one in this draft is. Most people on the left side or in the interior. But I'll go with Darrisaw. I'll put him on the right, and I'll sort it out later because I need that spot.
I think that makes a lot of sense, man. I mean, given, you laid it out perfectly, Sal, like what they've done here to their line, even the comment from yesterday, I think, definitely offensive tackle makes a ton of sense for them. I don't know if any one of, Joe or Nate want to argue for some other position, but that makes the most sense to me sitting here.
The only argument I would have is maybe bumping down a position and going with USC's Elijah Vera Tucker. Maybe you pair him with Richie Incognito. I think that's a fine move. I think both guys are good. I think in this instance, I like Vera Tucker as maybe the better overall player 5-6 years from now. I think Vera Tucker is going to be the best interior offensive lineman of this draft. I think he's very good. I think ultimately he could really be a nice piece for them. I have no reservations about taking Darrisaw here though either.
I think the quarterback rumor with them is interesting today, but I don't think there's going to be.
I think so too. Yeah. I think it's lip service.
Fill that out for those of us who are whose iPads are stuck with draft information and haven't seen Twitter in a while.
Ian Rappaport had today. They've done extensive work evaluating the top quarterbacks in the draft class. That could just be one of those rumors that doesn't become anything. Kind of sounds like it might be. But they were also connected to Kyler Murray a couple of years ago, and if they had been able to get up and get him, maybe they would have done it. So I wonder if they are just going with Derek Carr until they find a prospect that they love, and maybe they fall in love with one of these guys.
Always known for his, inability to stick with a quarterback. That's been sort of Gruden's MO. The fact that he has stuck with Derek Carr as long as he has, I've got the feeling he has a very, very serious itch to either move on or find his long-term replacement. I think it's probably has some credence to it. I just don't think they're in a position at 17th overall and the other needs that this team needs to move up. I think moving up for one of these quarterbacks would be incredibly risky, but maybe exactly on par for what John Gruden might do in a draft. Same with Mike Mayock. I think their draft record, especially the last 2 years, has been tough. They backdoored and lucked into Max Crosby. Everything else has been kind of a disaster in terms of what they've been doing. So yeah, quarterback is in play, but I would be really surprised if they could find the tools and the ways and the means to move up and get the guy that they want to get.
All right, that brings us to pick 18 and the Miami Dolphins back for their second pick of the first round.
Back for
more. Pardon?
So they're back for more.
Back for more, right? It's Sneaky Joe is up with the pick for the Dolphins,
and coincidentally,
they did get Jalen Waddle at number 6. By the way, that was you too, Joe.
I was going to say, coincidentally, I get both Dolphins picks.
Yeah,
and I kind of like going offense again here. I think I kind of like the idea of them even going 2 wide receivers if they can get their hands on in the first round. But the way the board has fallen, especially with Rashad Bateman going that early, I think Bateman might be a nice target for Miami at 18 if he's there, but he's not. So I'm going to look at running back here, and I'm going to go with Najee Harris from Alabama to the Dolphins at 18. I think he is not getting enough credit for the receiver that he is. He's got nice hands. I don't think he's got the speed to be able to take some pass in short space to the house or anything. I don't think he has that breakaway ability. But he's got nice hands, and I think he could be a reliable receiver out of the backfield for Tua when he's got to dump it off. And they are nowhere at running back right now. It's Salvon Ahmed, Myles Gaskin, and Patrick Laird still. Malcolm Brown, from the Rams they brought in this offseason. Nothing that rates. So I like Harris to the Dolphins.
All right, you got a whole Alabama thing happening in South Florida here. Tua is their quarterback. You got Waddle at 6 in this mock, and now Najee Harris goes at 18. I'll buy it. I'm thinking, Joe, you referenced when you selected Waddle for them at 6. Our buddy Armando Salguero, longtime Miami beat guy, mentioning they need stars, and really, Waddle and Harris both might qualify.
Right.
To some respect. So, I can see it. It's really interesting to me that we're 18 picks in here and there's not an edge guy off the board. It's not surprising
totally
given the talent available. It's just what a weird year. One of you guys mentioned earlier here, what a tough position whoever was in. I can't remember which of you
Atlanta.
said it.
It was 4.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
That there isn't an edge guy worth taking high because normally you get, there's a Bosa or Chase Young or somebody that is just, itching to get picked early, and we're not there yet. So we'll see.
If you're Brandon Beane and you're if no edge, which I'm up next here, I'm going to tell you I'm not going edge for Washington. I don't think Washington is going edge. I think they've got some other holes to fill. If you're Brandon Beane and you get to the 20th pick and not one edge has been taken, you're feeling, and you still have a Caleb Farley on the board. This is working out almost exactly how I imagine Brandon Beane would have loved it to work out for him.
Yeah, maybe I don't know, Sal, you can maybe speak to this. Do you think we get to this range of the draft, and like Nate is suggesting here, Jalen Phillips is still there, Kwity Paye is still there, Ojulari is still there. Do you think maybe Brandon Beane thinks about moving up 5 spots or something to secure an edge player that he might not have thought he had to look at?
I do. I think it also could be corner, as Nate mentioned. If Caleb Farley's fallen this far, if they're comfortable with his medical, I think that could be a target that you could trade up for. I don't think Jalen Phillips doesn't scream the kind of guy the Bills will go get just because of all the issues he's had, and if they really want to use that number 1 pick on him. But Paye and Ojulari, a lot of people like. Yeah, I could see that happening for sure, guys. As far as the Dolphins, I'm just thinking about this offense. You put Najee Harris and Jalen Waddle with Devontae Parker and Who'd they sign? Will Fuller? I mean,
Gesicki,
that's helping.
yeah.
That's helping Tua.
Yeah.
You'll know. You'll know now.
Right. All right. Well, Nate, as you said, you're up for the Washington football team selection. Again, our friends at Draft Network have offensive tackle, linebacker, safety as their top 3 needs. So at pick 19, what do you see Washington doing here, Nate?
So, listen, I mean, if you're a Washington fan, you really have to love what this team has done through the draft, how they've been able to build. I think everybody agrees that, they've got the right coach, they've got the right GM in place, they've got the right pieces. My question is, when is Washington going to have a chance to draft a franchise quarterback? Because they just bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick, for what he is likely a good piece for them, but he moves them further away from the ability to be in a position to either move up or actually draft a franchise quarterback. So what can Washington do this year if they're going to win 8-9 games? That's not going to put them in a good position to draft a quarterback next year either. So this is a tough spot for them. I think in reality, if you see Justin Fields at 9, you see Mac Jones at 14, I would guarantee that the Washington football team is going to consider or at least explore what it takes to move up for one of these quarterbacks. Now that that's off the table, I'm going to Tevin Jenkins, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma State. I think they've got to shore up the other side of that line. I think they've got the best defensive line right now in football. I think they probably project to be the best defensive line for the next several seasons. So go get some protection up front, make it easier on the run game. But again, I think the question will remain with Washington is when and how do they acquire that franchise quarterback in the future?
All right. Any thoughts on that selection, guys?
I'm sorry. Who did he take it in?
Tevin Jenkins, down here. Tackle.
Jenkins. So I think if the board has fallen this way and Washington's on the clock, I think Ron Rivera runs to the podium with Zaven Collins' name on it. I think Zaven Collins would be.
Too.
He's
Question
basically
for you,
he's kind of like their Luke Kuechly. I'm not comparing them exactly as the same player. I just mean the impact I think he could make on that defense for them.
So, but I guess the reason I didn't, because he was the other guy I thought for this pick. At 270 pounds, Sal, is Zaven Collins, is he trying to play middle linebacker in the NFL? Because it feels like he's trying to play a 3-4 outside linebacker role.
I don't know where you put him necessarily in your scheme. I think he could be a multiple scheme fit. I think you put him on the field, you find a spot, and you let him go play. He's a monster. He's terrific.
Agreed.
But I don't mind the Jenkins pick. I think that's fine. I think they need that for sure. There's no doubt about that.
All right, we are through 19 picks now. We get back from the break. I will be on the clock with the Chicago Bears. Team needs quarterback. I don't.
Everything.
Good luck. Thoughts and prayers to the Bears. I like how that sounds. Thoughts and prayers to the Bears. All right, well, you're listening to and hopefully watching on Facebook Live our mock draft here on WGR with Nate Geary, Sal Capaccio, Sneaky Joe DiBiase. The draft is about finding value and improving your team. Well, if you're a business owner or marketing manager, you know how valuable a great marketing team can be for you. Whether it's a new website, a video, or a campaign to inject new life into your brand, it's important to have the right team behind you to get the job done. And that's exactly what Quilted Squirrel will do for you. As a local marketing and branding agency, Quilted Squirrel helps organizations like yours build stronger brands and more meaningful connections with their customers. Go to quiltedsquirrel.com to see how they can become a valuable part of your team today, and we thank them for sponsoring and presenting this mock draft here on our show. Again, with Nate and Sal and Sneaky Joe, I'm the Bulldog. We'll be back for more after this on WGR.
Odyssey is your new home for all the audio that matters to you. Download the Odyssey app today to listen to WGR Sports Radio 550. Brought to you by Geico. Local office, West Seneca.
Outlet Liquor is the place to buy a case. Stock up and save when you shop the lowest prices available every day at Outlet Liquor. You never have to wait for a sale. The more you buy, the more you save, only at Outlet Liquor.
What's your outlet?
Pop, pour, and enjoy the everyday savings on sparkling wines at Outlet Liquor. Stock up on Cinzano Asti as low as $7.99 or Andre Champagne as low as $4.99 a bottle every day when you buy a case. It's the place to buy a case, Outlet Liquor.
What's your outlet?
Protect your privacy online for free with DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo, privacy simplified.
Hello,
I'm a unicorn. Yes, one of those. Everyone's trying to find me, but most can't, unless they're ZipRecruiter. If you've hired before, you understand it's quite hard to find a unicorn. You know, someone who's perfect for your role, but somehow ZipRecruiter manages to do it fast. Talk about magical. And right now, you can go to ZipRecruiter.com/hire to try it for free. ZipRecruiter's technology finds candidates with the right experience, like me, and actively invites them to apply to your job. ZipRecruiter knows you want more than just great resumes. You want brilliant people who can help your business shine. That's why they make hiring these people easy. But I'm just a majestic unicorn. Don't take my word for it. Listen to him.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/hire. That's ZipRecruiter.com/hire. ZipRecruiter.com/hire.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
It's just one of the biggest events on the football calendar. The Draft. Round 1 Thursday, April 29th at 8 p.m. Hear full coverage on WGR Sports Radio 550 and follow every story at WGR550.com and WGR on the Odyssey app.
Coverage of the NFL Draft on WGR is being brought to you by Taco Bell. Taco Bell is now hiring. Text BBG-TB to 85000. Message and data rates may apply. By the Quilted Squirrel, the marketing agency that believes your brand matters. By Outlet Liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. And by Fiegel Car & Joyce, your border attorneys.
Scrap prices are up, and at Niagara Metals, scrap prices are way up. If you're ready to send your old appliances, copper pipe, wires, cords, or
Cruising along on a sunny, breezy, somewhat cool Friday here with our very first ever full first-round mock draft on this show anyway. I mean, I know it's been done on the radio before. And certainly Sal and Nate both have mock drafts they've been doing. You can find all that at the Odyssey app as well as at WGR550.com. We've got Sal Capaccio, Nate Geary, and Sneaky Joe DiBiase along with me. I am the Bulldog. I don't know. Should I run through all the picks here, guys? I mean, we are on the radio.
No, I don't think you need to. We're actually tweeting them all out, by the way.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So hopefully folks are following along with what we're doing here. Yeah, it got cumbersome. Like the last time I did it, and there were like 12 picks, I got kind of tired. I felt like I was just reading a list, which, well, actually, I was reading a list. Anyway, we are up to pick 20, and the poor Bears. Their needs: quarterback, offensive tackle, wide receiver. You take a look at what's available here, the best players available, and you're going pretty far to get to one of those positions. So I'm inclined to give them Caleb Farley, the cornerback out of Virginia Tech here, just from a best player available standpoint. I guess you could make a case for an edge guy here maybe for them. But I'll go Caleb Farley, the corner. There's injury concerns there, right? That's the biggest deal with him is the medical. But I'll give the Bears Farley at number 20.
I like going best player available. I think that this is what teams do. You don't pigeonhole yourself into a player. That's how you reach. If Caleb Farley has fallen that far, he's absolutely an option.
Just such a Bears pick, though. Just nothing that really instills confidence that they're gonna. Right. Not a sexy pick by any means, but I the best player available for sure.
I'm sitting here during the break getting ready to pick for the Bears, and I'm like sort of, they've done something at quarterback. What did they do at quarterback? Is Foles still there? Did they do anything else? Oh yeah, Andy Dalton. Joe reminds me, like, oh God. So like, what are they going to draft a receiver to see if Andy Dalton's any good? What? I think you already know your answer there, right? So anyway. Farley's the pick. So, Sal, you're back up here for the Colts at number 21.
Yeah, and look at the Colts have two major needs. They don't have a lot of needs, but the ones they have are major. Two, offensive tackle and edge rusher. They got to get that in this draft. And they need to get somebody to get to the quarterback. Justin Houston hasn't been re-signed. Had a down year last year. He's still a free agent. We haven't seen many edge guys come off the board. They kind of have a pick here of guys. And I think Jalen Phillips is just sitting there and screaming. And again, lots of questions. You got to be really, really okay with him. But I'm going to take the swing here because he's just too talented to pass up. I'm going to take Jalen Phillips from Miami via UCLA, by the way, who has had concussions and a wrist injury and surgery. He retired for a music career, all this kind of stuff. But he's a heck of a football player when he's healthy, and they really need this. So I'm going to take Jalen Phillips. I know it's a risk, but he's just too good to pass up here for the Colts at a need position.
All righty.
I think it's the right pick, too, by the way, Sal. And not only that, you mentioned Justin Houston's still a free agent. DeForest Buckner changed the landscape of their defense when they made that trade for him. Pairing him with Jalen Phillips makes a ton of sense to me. I think that's a home run hit for the Colts, who I would be guessing at 21 did not think that they would have a choice of any of the defensive ends, edge players that were available in this draft, and they do. So really great get there for the Colts.
All right, we've made 21 picks. The Tennessee Titans are up next. Sneaky Joe will have their pick to lead off the 5 o'clock hour. Hope you're enjoying our mock draft here on WGR. And if you're watching us on our WGR Facebook page through StreamYard, hi, thanks for visiting with us. And we'll continue along here. We'll spend a lot of time, just so you know, we're targeting getting to the Bills at 30 at around 5:30, and we'll spend obviously a little more time talking about them. Maybe we'll kind of breeze through these next few picks between now and then. But we'll take a break here. We get back, and Sneaky Joe will be up for. Wait, did I have that right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Sneaky Joe is up next for the Tennessee Titans, along with Nate Geary, Sal Capaccio, and Sneaky Joe DiBiase. I am the Bulldog, and this is WGR.
Sabres Coach Watch on WGR is powered by Gentech Power Systems, your team for Generac home generator repairs, service, and sales.
in the back seat.
Nothing to do with me being
you need me to drive you around.
Leave my seat. Go into the front seat.
Because I asked you to sit in the front seat of my car, and it's my car.
On WGR.
We would have already been there already.
Yes, we would have.
Oh, you can't drive with somebody in the back seat.
Yeah, you're such a baby. You're a grown man baby. You know what? Little baby wants to ride. We'll give little baby a ride.
You know what?
Okay?
Little baby wants to walk.
Sports Radio 550.
Welcome back into today's mock draft on our show, presented by the Quilted Squirrel, the marketing agency who believes your brand matters. I am the Bulldog. Mike Schopp is out sick today. We've got Sneaky Joe DiBiase, Sal Capaccio, and Nate Geary on hand here going through. We've made it through 21 picks so far. A couple of highlights I'll mention before we continue. Nate selected Trey Lance third overall for the San Francisco 49ers and then doubled down on that insanity by taking Rashad Bateman at 7 for
Just watch Bulldog. You know what?
the Lions.
I'm embracing your trash talk because every year, Bulldog, and you've been doing this, by the way, a hell of a lot longer than me. You should know better that there is going to be some head scratchers in this first round that nobody can prepare for, and I'm going to be laughing all the way to somewhere, not the bank, because it's not that big of a bank account. So but what I'm saying is, you're gonna look back and regret, coming down on me on the show today.
I think by about 9 o'clock tonight, I'm not going to remember any of this. Is my plan. So
it is Friday.
All I'm doing is doing a radio show here by making fun of you. You know I love you. So that stood out. Joe got.
He's getting killed on Twitter, by the way. Nate is getting absolutely killed on Twitter.
Joe got an Alabama triumvirate together back in Miami because he got Jalen Waddle and Najee Harris to go play with quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. Of course, got drafted last year. First defensive player, didn't go until 10. I don't know. There are your highlights so far for round one of this mock draft. When we left off, Sneaky Joe was on the clock with the Tennessee Titans. Team needs cornerback, wide receiver, offensive tackle. Joe, what do you think for Tennessee at 22?
Well, I think it's a bit of a reach maybe here, just by a little bit, but the Titans are built to win right now, and they have lost Corey Davis to free agency. They lost Adam Humphries. They lost Jonnu Smith. They have the most vacated targets in the NFL going into this season, and it might be a little early for him, but I'm going to go with Elijah Moore at 22 for the Titans.
I don't think it's too early.
I think they need.
I love it, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm with you on it.
I do too. I don't think it's too early either.
And I might like Rondale Moore more than as a player than Elijah Moore, but Elijah Moore does not have the injury concerns. He does not have you have to go back to 2018 to watch his film concerns. And Joe Marino from the Draft Network here a couple weeks ago thought he had more position flexibility, and the Titans need a guy to play on the outside and in the inside, so I think Elijah Moore is the best fit for them.
I like it, and I'll say, and I know I've referenced it a couple times, but I did a mock today. Matt, by the way, Nate has one up at the website, WGR550.com. I did one on a podcast. I had Elijah Moore going to the Titans, so there you go, Joe. Like, I had that as well. I like this fit.
A puzzling offseason, I guess, is how I would point to Tennessee. I mean, them going full bore and paying Bud Dupree top of market, coming off an ACL injury, was bananas to me. Them deciding that they're just not gonna even bring back Corey Davis. They're also gonna let go of Adam Humphries. Jonnu Smith's gone. Just a puzzling offseason for that team to put all of their bananas into the basket to go after an edge player when that team is maybe the one position they're set at is edge. It was just a real mind-blowing offseason for Tennessee, but it's a good pick, I think.
All right, Elijah Moore, Ole Miss to the Tennessee Titans. The Jets are next at 23 with the second of their two first-round picks.
We are playing. Joe Douglas is playing with house money. Every single one of their needs you could seemingly take here on the board. You could absolutely see them going Zavin Collins here. You can see them going Kwity Paye here. You can see them going Travis Etienne here at running back. They have a ton of options. You could see them go Greg Newsome, the second corner from Northwestern. They have tons of needs on that team, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. This is a really hard pick for me, but I think I'm going to go Greg Newsome, the corner out of Northwestern. I think they really need that second cornerback position kind of filled up. Frankly, they probably still need a number one corner. So I think Greg Newsome gives him that. I think that he ultimately ends up probably being one of the. I like Newsome a lot. I know people have him above J.C. Horn. I know he's been talked about in the top 2 or 3 in this class. So I think it's a great pick. I think overall a great first round for the New York Jets, coming away with, I think, a starting corner.
I'd like the Bills to take him. If he fell to 30, I got to tell you guys, every time I do these mock exercises, he goes right around this spot. It's like it's right between like here and just before the Bills pick. So I don't think they'll do it, but be able to get him. But I like the player.
Is there any kind of a case to be made that they should do something skill player wise to help out their rookie quarterback that they just drafted at number 2?
Yeah, I think that's why I think ETN comes into play 100%. But you look at what's available right now. Who is really that player out of the guys? I mean, we could go Tony. I could be sold on Kadarius Toney at 23. It feels like a little bit of a stretch. Otherwise, listen, we knew this is a skilled draft. A lot of those skilled position guys are getting pushed up into the top 18 picks. I think this is a home run. I also think Elijah Vera Tucker would be a home run here for the New York Jets. The Jets had a lot of options based on the way that this board played out.
I agree.
All right, that brings it around to me for the Steelers at number 24. We're trying to kind of plow through these picks so we have at the bottom of the hour in a reasonably long segment enough time to devote to the Bills pick at 30. So the Steelers, cornerback, offensive tackle, running back, a lot of Sal, I know you referenced these mock drafts we've been doing. Najee Harris has to be a big favorite going to Pittsburgh, but he's already off the board in our exercise. So, I think for the Steelers, I'm tempted to go running back. I could go Javonte Williams here. Of course, ETN is still on the board, but you're going to have a hard time seeing me pick ETN here. This close
right.
to the
Of
Bills.
course, you want to leave.
I was glad Bulldog got Pittsburgh so that ETN can make it to the Bills so we can have the debate.
I think I'll go interior offensive line here. Elijah Vera Tucker, I think, is the pick for the Steelers. But you guys have talked about him some, right? He's a nice player, and the Steelers they're going to want to run the ball. So I think interior offensive line is a solid choice for them. So I'll go there for them.
I like this pick a lot.
You could make the argument he's the highest rated player left on the board. I mean, there's a few guys. Collins is there. Looking at the Draft Network, Barmore's there, but you could make that argument still. He's a good player.
They need offensive linemen.
Yeah,
they desperately need offensive linemen.
And if they are going to have any chance this season, considering they don't have much of a backup option, they need Roethlisberger to last the entire season, and they need him to be as healthy as possible.
Yeah,
that offensive line right now is not constructed to keep him healthy all year.
It's bad.
Okay, Elijah Vera Tucker at 24 to the Steelers. We're back to the top of the batting order, and that is Sal Capaccio at 25 for the Jaguars. See, you got their first pick, and now you get them at 25, Sal.
And there's a player sitting right there in their own backyard, just an hour and a half away, maybe, I guess, if you will, in Gainesville, Florida, who is electrifying, who is going to help their young quarterback, who they just drafted. Hasn't that how it worked out with Joe? He had Miami twice.
Yep.
I get the Jacksonville Jaguars twice. I compare my rookie young stud quarterback Trevor Lawrence with Kadarius Toney out of Florida. Maybe some people think it's a little high, but I mean this is not a team that expects to win right now. They want to build what they have. Urban Meyer as a head coach. Excuse me. I think Kadarius Toney jumps right in and becomes a really true electrifying player for this particular team and that offense in Trevor Lawrence. I'm taking Kadarius Toney. And like I said, he's right there in Florida. They're probably very knowledgeable of him for that, but also because I think, it helps the fan base a little bit. Lots of Florida Gators fans over there in Jacksonville.
Anything on Toney? Anyone? Sounds good to me. Makes sense.
I love the player. The only thing about Jacksonville is I like their trio of wide receivers already. Like Chenault, I love. Marvin Jones, they signed, and if you want to think future with Trevor Lawrence, then this is maybe their number 2 guy of the future. DJ Chark is still there too.
Expecting a big bounce back season for Chark too. He is a legitimate wide receiver 1. I think DJ Chark.
All right, Browns are up next, and it's Joe. Sorry, for a second I lost the batting order. Right, a lot of moving parts here. Sneaky Joe is up for the Browns at number 26.
And their needs right now, looking at them, are edge, interior defensive line, wide receiver. I don't see a receiver that they should go with here. I'm going to go with Kwity Paye from Michigan.
It's a good pick.
Yeah, they did sign Jadeveon Clowney, but
they did.
I think you needed some insurance. I mean, he got injured again last year for Tennessee, and he didn't even produce when he was in games for them. And we know they wanted to improve the pass rush by chasing J.J. Watt also. So I'm going to say that they add to the edge position with Kwity Paye from Michigan.
I think just for them getting to make sure that Paye doesn't go to the Ravens in the next pick, I think is probably motivation enough here for the Browns to take Paye for sure.
All right. Speaking of the Ravens, they are up next at number 27, and that is you, Nate Geary.
Yeah, I think they're pretty heartbroken that Kwity Paye goes one pick before to their division rival. I've got them here taking safety from TCU, Trayvon Moehrig. I'm actually surprised he fell this far. He's the draft's top safety. And if you remember last season, I think there's been kind of a revolving door from Baltimore. Earl Thomas has that weird incident, and he leaves the team and is never to be heard from again. I think they have a hole there. I think they want to keep adding defensively. There isn't that wide receiver on the board right now for them to take. So go with the best player available, and I think you get one of them in Moehrig.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens I have such respect for them as an organization and what they've been able to do in the draft over the years that, they're going to be pretty buttoned up, and they're going to take a solid football player. He's the best at the position. I am kind of surprised you did not go with the edge rusher from Georgia, Azeez Ojulari. I think he's a very good player, and they need that. They just lost a bunch of pass rushing, during free agency. So
and they Sal with the trade, they're going to have the opportunity at 31 to take care of that here. I think maybe they look at saying, hey, we have actual need here to fill at safety, and frankly, that's still a really good defensive line, even with some of the losses they sustained in the offseason.
And like I said, he's the best player at that position.
Yeah.
All right, so Trayvon Moehrig, safety out of TCU, goes 27 to the Ravens. That puts me up on the Saints selection. They're at number 28. Corner, receiver, edge. At least according to the Draft Network, those are their needs. Zavon Collins is still on the board. That doesn't really fit. I think I'll give them the player you just mentioned, Sal, the Georgia edge player, Ojulari, is going to be the pick for the Saints here at number 28. Fits a need, and, what else do you need?
Yeah. I think defense is right for New Orleans. I've wondered about them at wide receiver if somebody falls, because past Michael Thomas, not loving their group. But defense, I think if there's not a receiver on the board, makes the most sense for them.
I think if the Bills really like Asante Samuel Jr., who is going to be on the board here, the New Orleans Saints are the one team I think that could end up hurting their chances at getting Asante Samuel Jr. I think he could definitely be in play for the Saints there. Not as quick hands, or not the kind of quick feet that Max Capaccio has. Can't cover as well as Max, but
we're talking about you now on the radio.
Close
I
enough.
got Max here. If you're watching on the stream, he's looking. He's saying hello to everybody.
Hi, Max. Well, that ground
the Saints are interesting, right? I mean, the Saints are interesting in a lot of ways. Yeah, sorry, I didn't know you guys were done talking. Saints are interesting in a lot of ways because of I think they're just a very, very curious team in 2021, aren't they?
Yep.
Super curious about what they could do, where they could go, quarterback situation, all that kind of stuff. Which is also why Mike Norris said on my podcast this week about the schedule that the curiosity in Week 1 could mean that they're the team that the Bucs open with.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, I know we can tend to overstate the importance of quarterback, as nutty as that sounds sometimes. But, man, a team loses a guy that has been such a legend for so long. I just wonder if the Saints are in for just a crash, because Drew Brees, even in the diminished state he was, especially last year, I just wonder, turning that over to Jameis Winston. Brees, did he ever make mistakes? Drew Brees, you're going to get Winston, the last time he was a starter, threw 30 picks. Good luck, I say to the Saints.
The one thing you think about that Saints offense, though, is I do think they'll be more exciting with Jameis Winston, because I think Michael Thomas comes back in play. I think that more than likely, Alvin Kamara's fantasy stock takes a big hit here. The biggest the biggest value in Alvin Kamara's fantasy game is the fact that Drew Brees would check down to him 10 times a game. We saw when Hill was in, we saw a significant drop in those targets in the pass game, and I think that's probably going to continue when Jameis takes over. So I think they become a more vertical offense. That means Michael Thomas is probably set to maybe kind of go back to the numbers we saw him in 2018 and 2019.
All right, excellent. We've made it to the Packers at 29, which means the Bills are the pick after this. And so we're back to the top of the order again here. Sal, you've got the Packers at number 29. I wish there were a quarterback for them to pick right now, just to be ridiculous. But
who's the kid from Stanford? David Mills. Watch out for David Mills.
I had Kyle Trask getting a little bit of love lately as a possible, back end first rounder. I don't know if I believe it, but who knows? It's funny because in my earlier exercise, I'm doing a mock, and I said on the podcast, I go, Aaron Rodgers would love a receiver, which is exactly why they're going to go defense for the Packers, right?
Yep.
But I will tell you, for our exercise here, for our purposes, to be honest with you, there are some interesting defensive players they could go, and I really debated. This came down to Christian Barmore, Alabama interior defensive line. They could do that. But you know what? I think they are, in this situation, going to give Aaron Rodgers or Jordan Love some help because Terrace Marshall Jr. is on the board. And, he's the guy that, even though Jamar Chase got most of the love at LSU, guys, this is a really good football player. And I think somebody who really is probably a little bit more pro-ready than some of the other guys that we've talked about, to be quite honest, coming from LSU. He has a really nice volume of work. He can do a lot of different things, but he's a big target, 6'3", 200. I like Terrace Marshall Jr. to be the pick here because of the way the board fell. I do think they could go defense if a guy like this isn't available, but he's kind of a little too juicy to pass up, if you will.
Joe's going to be upset because you didn't go Rondale Moore here, and you let Terrace Marshall go in front of him.
No, I'm thrilled because the Bills are next.
The only other thing, Sal, that I could think of is Zaven Collins is still on the board, which is a worst-case scenario for me because then come draft night, I'm going to be fighting with some of the faction of Bills Twitter who is obsessed with Zaven Collins and the Bills going to a 4-3 set with 3 linebackers. So that's a nightmare scenario for me, but I think it's the right pick for Green Bay. To your credit, Sal, they need to start surrounding him with some more talent. That's kind of what they need to do to be maybe get over the hump and beat Tampa Bay, which we know is not going to be the easiest thing to do in the NFC.
All right, well, we are to pick 30 now, and the Bills are up, all 4 of us. It is, I'm sorry, who just picked? Was it Joe? So it's
Sal.
Sal did. Okay, so it's technically Joe's turn, but all 4 of us, I don't know how we're going to decide who goes on the website. Are we just going to have a pick at 30?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have a consensus maybe.
Yeah, we could if one of us, if somebody gets picked by 2 of us.
You guys are competitive. I guess there isn't a lot of competitiveness in this
Whose
group.
turn is it though? Who would be normally in the rotation?
It is Joe's turn next.
So I'll propose that if there's a consensus, we go with that. If there's not, we go with what Joe has.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Or we could just go what Joe has. You
Okay.
guys do whatever you want. I don't care. I want to take it away from Joe's
Well,
hands.
I do want to hear what everybody would like to do here because
Yeah,
Travis
for sure.
Etienne
Okay.
is on the board. And
Travis Etienne is on the
Yeah.
board. You've got, Edge is on the board. As far as the highest ranked guys right
Yep.
now, according to Draft Network, we've got a linebacker, an interior defensive line. I'd say forget about both of those. Edge, I don't know, offensive line maybe.
A lot of good linemen here. Yeah.
Yeah. The Alabama kid, right? The guy that's been dinged up, Dickerson. He hasn't, his name's not been called. I've learned about him.
I'm a big Creed Humphrey fan myself.
Okay. Well, we'll hash all this out. The Bills are up next in our full first-round mock draft. We're streaming live on the WGR Facebook page. You can check us out there. Of course, hopefully you're listening along here, but if you get near a device that can stream Facebook Live for you, check us out. We got another, we got 3 picks to go to wrap this thing up. The Bills are up next. Along with Sal Capaccio, Nate Geary, and Sneaky Joe DiBiase, I am the Bulldog, and this is WGR.
Miss Howard and Jeremy this morning? No problem. Rewind up to 24 hours with Odyssey Rewind.
in here, and if he's the best guy on our board, we wouldn't hesitate to take him.
That is Bills general manager Brandon Beane. We're less than a week out from round 1 of the NFL draft. Thursday night at 8 p.m. You're listening to a full first-round mock draft here on our show. It's presented by the Quilted Squirrel, the marketing agency who believes your brand matters. Along with Nate Geary, Sneaky Joe DiBiase, and Sal Capaccio, I am the Bulldog. And we, our plan worked, guys. We've made it to 5:30. We've got a chunk of time here to spend on the Bills pick at 30. And I don't know. What do you guys think about how the board has fallen? Like what the Bills' options are here?
Not great.
Trade.
Don't love it. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I mean, this is an obvious trade back scenario for the Bills. What you have to hope is some team really loves Evan Collins and gives you an opportunity to move back 4 or 5 spots.
Or if one of these quarterbacks that's more towards the second or third round.
Kyle Trask, Kellen Mond.
If a team like, I don't know how far you'd have to go, but a team that's got a guy for this year, like Pittsburgh, says we love Kellen Mond or Kyle Trask, and we're going to make sure we go get him, then 30 makes a lot of sense for a trade down for a team coming up to get a quarterback.
I like that thought for sure. You'd be
going
I don't love the way
down
I don't love the way it's
second,
fallen
though.
for the Bills.
Yeah, that's right.
But I don't love the way it's fallen for the Bills. But we don't know. Obviously, maybe the Bills have somebody that has fallen to this point that they really like. We never know that. But for all of us, it looks like that's not the case.
Yep. I have to admit, I'm conflicted here because the exercise is what we think the team is going to do, right? That's how we've been approaching this. And as best we can, we try to do that. And, as much as I love the ETN idea, I have no real idea whether the Bills – I mean, Brandon Beane has done a great job of leaving the door open. He says the thing about how he doesn't have a home run hitter at running back with Moss or Singletary. So, that opens the door. The fact that they brought Breida in even as a fallback, if they can address it in the draft, because you never know how the board's going to fall, tells you they wanted to get some speed in the lineup. So I think it's possible that they like the ETN idea, but I don't know. They also might really like the idea of drafting running backs in the later rounds like they did the last 2 years with Singletary and Moss both in the third round. And so I'm not sure what I want to do here ultimately. It is
we all want you to take them though, so we can at least have the debate and have people
for
fight
sure.
about it.
I'm just telling you, I'm not, as much as I'm for it myself.
I get it.
I'm not sure in the exercise that, I'm not positive that they love the idea. I want them to. So, I'm going to suggest they take Travis Etienne here. I think he's someone who could help them right away this year. I mean, I don't think he's, someone who's going to make the biggest difference in the world, but I think he gives them an element that they do not have really anywhere on their offense. Just that home run hitting threat. So I've liked that idea almost since the AFC title game ended, and we saw Kansas City with all their speed exploit the Bills. So I like ETN, but I'm curious to hear, you guys aren't surprised about that. I'm curious to hear what the three of you think the Bills will do at 30.
So, Joe, I mean, you're kind of up next. Maybe you should kick us off here.
Yeah, I think they're going to take the best wide receiver on the board. I think I already thought they might, and when Brandon Beane made the comment about thinking long-term for the 30th pick and not short-term, I have to think he has the foresight to see that you have no idea who your starting wide receivers opposite Stephon Diggs are going to be in 2022. My guess would be Gabriel Davis will be one of them, but as somebody that bought into the Robert Foster hype a couple of years ago, I am timid to just declare that Gabriel Davis is a starting wide receiver in this option for years to come. So I think with Beasley's age and Sanders' age, it makes the most sense to pick the best wide receiver on the board. It just happens to be that the way the board fell, that Rondell Moore, my guy, is the best wide receiver on the board.
Oh, how
so
this
he's
is
the guy
working out
I
for
am
you
picking.
guys, the guys you love. For
yes.
Sure.
So I like the way it fell, and I would take him here at 30. And I think I do think the Bills would do it at 30.
Here's the one thing I'll say about this real quick, because I already talked for quite a bit about ETN. The guy's not played a full season of football in 2 years, right?
Right. 7 games since 2018.
Yeah. for the Bills.
A lot of these guys haven't, though. A lot of them haven't at this point.
I just worry about the Bills. I like Moore a lot. Like that answers your speed element. I think he's versatile. I'm intrigued by him. So like after ETN, it might be my next favorite idea. I just worry about them choosing a guy that has played so little in the last 2 years.
I'll let Nate go, and then I'll wrap up.
That works for me. So I am just dead torn between two guys. I'll start with the first one, and it's Asante Samuel Jr. Maybe this isn't a popular opinion. I don't believe he's available for the Bills in the second round, and I'm not sure he even makes it out of the first round entirely for them to target him in the early part of the second round to maybe trade up for. I think he's going to be a riser as the closer and closer we get to the draft. He's a first-round pick in my book. So that makes this pick a little bit more tough. But I think I have a friendship on the line here. I'm good friends with Marcel Louis-Jacques, and thank God he's on vacation and not listening to this in real time, because he would be peer pressuring me via text message right now to do the right thing. I'm going to go Asante Samuel Jr., and I'm just going to have to buy Marcel lunch or something. Hopefully he can forgive me. This is a harder pick than I thought, though. Bulldog, I think I'm firmly in your camp that as much as the value and as much as the position in itself maybe doesn't have first-round value, I think Travis Etienne brings a level of athleticism, brings a level of versatility in the pass game and in the run game. I like his ability to just line up in the slot, and then you have Zach Moss and him on the field at the same time. I would not be against that at all. This was a really close decision for me, but ultimately I go with Asante Samuel Jr. because I think he comps very well. I think Chris Trapasso mentioned this last week with Tre'Davious White, and I think you have two very legitimate, solid bookend corners for the next, 7-8 years.
I like this player a lot, Samuel. So I would not, as much as I'm team draft Travis Etienne. If the Bills pass on him to draft this cornerback, my head's not gonna explode or anything. I think it'd be a good pick. So anyway, Sal, what do you think?
Well, I don't love the way this board fell for the Bills. So what I did was I kind of did it by a process of elimination who I don't want out of who is left. There are guys that I would consider. I would consider Travis Etienne. I just don't think that Brandon Beane is going to spend that kind of an asset on a running back as we've talked. I just don't think he necessarily believes in that. He could. We'll see. I'm not taking Zavin Collins. I'm sorry. I know, Nate, you're going to fight with people, but anytime anybody brings up the 4-3 thing, I don't know what they're watching. Have they not watched Buffalo Bills football over the last several years? The Bills play nickel defense. They play They play a slot corner. They don't play a 4-3. And by the way, they have a few times, but it's got to be a certain set of circumstances to do that. The only way you take Collins is if you're pretty sure you're moving on from Tremaine Edmonds, which is fine. You could do that, but I don't see that happening as well. They have two young linebackers. That's not going to happen. A guy I did consider, Joe Tryon. He is the best edge guy available. I think he's very much in play here for the Bills, but I like somebody a little bit more. I'll tell you why. The corners I considered, Eric Stokes. I don't think he's quite ready at number 30. Of course, I considered Melanfano from Syracuse. I love his skill set. He's not going number 30. I just can't do that. I don't think Asante Samuel Jr. is quite the scheme fit for the Bills. I think he's a little bit more of a man-to-man guy. I think that there's some questions about him holding up as a tackler, which you need in the NFL, especially in the scheme that the Bills run and what they want to do from their corners. And then you get to the receivers. Rondale Moore is just too much of a hit or miss for me. The Bills aren't the team that does that. I don't think that they're the kind of team that's going to take a guy that's more hit or miss in a Super Bowl window. So, guys, the player I'm going to take is somebody. I'm going to read you just 4 words from his profile at the Draft Network, and you'll know exactly why I'm going to take him. And the 4 words are playing all 5 positions. That's Landon Dickerson of Alabama.
Yeah,
I mean, he has played all 5 positions up front. Don't we know that the Bills love these guys? They love position flexibility. Mitch Morse took a pay cut. I think we could read into that maybe his days are numbered in Buffalo over the next year or two, and this guy is probably going to be a center at the next level. Plus, they have an unsettled guard position. Landon Dickerson can play all 5 spots. He's an interior guy right away. I do understand he's had a lot of injuries over the years at Alabama, but he's got experience. He comes in, great program. I'm taking Landon Dickerson with this pick.
Yeah, he keeps coming back from all the injuries. I read something about him.
He gets a year to sit too, by the way, in this situation. He gets a year to sit.
Yeah. Just last night I read something about him, how during the pandemic, he he turned his carport at wherever he's living into like an impromptu weight, like for him and his teammates. He got the money to buy the weights and like did all this stuff. I read that and thought Sean McDermott would love this dude.
Yep.
And he is just committed to just doing it, recovering, staying at it. So it would not shock me at all if he ended up being the pick, if he's available. All right, so what do we put on the board here? We've got 4 different guys.
We'll put all 4 on there. So when you read it on the website, you'll see who each of us picked. And I think that's really indicative of like what could happen. Even if the board doesn't have to fall exactly this way, but the Bills are so good and so complete as a team. We just had 4 different players at 4 different positions. Like it wasn't even like, I like this receiver more than this receiver. It's like offensive line, corner, receiver, running back. Like they could really do almost anything in this draft.
All right.
BPA.
Well, there it is. 4 different picks. Nate's going to bail out here and go have his Friday. Thanks for making it back. We're all glad you're feeling better, too, by the way, man. I know you had a tough ride with COVID, so good for you.
Yeah, man. Thanks, fellas. Appreciate you.
All right. We'll take a timeout, and I guess we'll squeeze in – I almost said the Chiefs. We'll squeeze in the Ravens and the Tampa Bay Bucks picks at 31 and 32. There was a trade early this afternoon between the Chiefs and the Ravens. So the Ravens now
and
have
we'll just assume more to the Bills here for our purposes because Joe has them, right? You want to do that for the last 2 picks?
For the purposes of doing the rest of the draft?
Yeah, for the purposes of the rest of the draft, we're going to eliminate Rondell Moore.
Okay, sure.
Right?
That's fine.
Yeah, that sounds fine. That's reasonable enough. Yeah, okay. Let me find him on my – not like I need to do that right now. But anyway, okay, we'll take a timeout. We'll get back and wrap this thing up. Along with Sneaky Joe, Sal Capaccio, the now departed Nate Geary. I am the Bulldog, and this is WGR.
The only way you can take WGR Sports Radio 550 with you is the Odyssey app. Download it today and listen to us anytime, anywhere. Brought to you by Geico. Local office, West Seneca.
Infinity of Williamsville on Main Street just off Transit Road. Featuring the full line.
come in and your doctors get their hands on him going, hey, you know what, he needs a surgery. And you're like, you got to be kidding me. That's a fear a lot of teams have, that normally you already know that by now, that this guy, he may need his shoulder scoped or he may have a hernia, and you put him on your board knowing that, hey, I may move him down a little bit, but I'm willing to accept this player with this. He's going to be out for the rest of the spring. He'll be ready for training camp.
That is Brandon Bean, Bills GM, earlier this week with Howard, Simon, and Jeremy White on the WGR Morning Show. Hope you've enjoyed our mock draft. Still 2 picks to go. Our mock draft here presented by the Quilted Squirrel, the marketing agency who believes your brand matters. Sal Capaccio and Sneaky Joe still along for the ride here on the StreamYard link on Facebook Live. I hope folks have enjoyed that as much as you can, looking at our mugs while we completed this exercise. We have 2 picks to go, and they belong now to the Baltimore Ravens at 31 and the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 32. There was a trade earlier today. Joe, what were the details on the trade? I know Orlando Brown is the key piece going from Baltimore to Kansas City. But what's the rest of it?
The rest of it is the Ravens are actually sending a second-round pick also back this year with Brown, and then a 6th-round pick in 2022. Kansas City, what they are sending in total is their first-round pick at 31, 3rd and 4th-round picks this year, and a 5th next year. So really they're trading down from 31 to I think it's 50, 57, maybe somewhere in the 50s. And then they're getting a couple of other extra picks.
All right. So let's see. We left off, Joe, you were the Bills. So that means, let's see, Nate would have been up for the Ravens here, and that he's left, so that leaves me. What are the Ravens going to do here? I don't know. Who do we want to put on? Should we put Zavon Collins on the Ravens sale? What do you think?
I thought about it. I think he's the best player available. The problem is they don't really need a off-ball linebacker. They need an edge guy, and that's not what he does. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm not really sure that that's where I would go here. I do think, though, that isn't he like the prototypical Raven? Isn't he the guy?
Yeah, he seems
right.
it.
That's why I said that. Right.
I mean, he just fits right in there. So I have no problem taking him for that reason. I don't think he's necessarily a fit for them. They could go wide receiver. I mean, if you like Amari Rodgers that much, I think they still need to help out in their wide receiver room a little bit. Just looking over the board real quick. Who did I have here? Hold on.
This Nico Collins is shooting up draft boards lately, like the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
What
about Joe Tryon at edge? He might be. I'll tell you who I'll tell you who I'll take here. I think the Ravens are a team that would take a chance and a swing on a guy like Jason Owe of Penn State. I think that could be like they need an edge guy, and I know he doesn't have the production. He had 0 sacks, but that's like the kind of guy you're like, yeah, but he went to the Ravens. They're going to coach him up, and suddenly he's a double-digit sack guy in like 3 years, right?
Okay.
It just seems like that.
Yep, I'm sold on that. I'll plug him in there if that's all right with you, Joe. I mean, it was my pick there. We'll go Jason Owe from Penn State to Baltimore, and that leaves Sal with the last pick here at 32 for the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
What's the let me just put Owe in there. What's the deal with they re-signed what's his name? Right before Matt Milano got his Levante David, but they have next to him. Who else? Who's their other linebacker? I'm just drawing a blank right now because they have. Because he's older, right?
Hold on, I'm on. I'm on.
No,
Devin. Well, they have Devin White.
Right. Devin White. They're not going to do that. So how can we have Collins lasting this long? It's just hard for me. Right?
I think they're tough just because aren't they the first team since like the 70s to be bringing back every starter? I mean.
Right.
They could do it just to say we don't need
special teams.
Yeah, they could just do it to say we don't need anything, and David's gonna be. Well, David will be here for a while, so I don't.
So you know who I had them taking in my mock today was the guy you took for the Bills, Rondale Moore. I actually thought that could be a place that he could wind up. So you know what? Let's
running
go
back
edge here.
Maybe.
Oh yeah, edge. Joe Tryon, is still there, so I'll go Joe Tryon for this pick.
All right, edge to close this thing out.
There you go. Yeah, they are tough.
Yeah,
they
are.
I
want to give some props to our friends at the Draft Network. We have Joe Marino on regularly, and other guys that work with them. For anybody who's followed along this whole thing, I mean, first of all, what is wrong with you? But thank you if you did. If you want to, literally, I know people love the draft. If you want to do this with your friends, go to the Draft Network. on the internet that their mock draft machine is super easy to use, really convenient. Yes. I got to admit, I was stressed out last night thinking I'm going to have 12 different things open on my browser, jumping around, trying to keep track of who's been picked and all this stuff. And it couldn't have been easier. I mean, they do a great job. All the bios of the guys are right there, easy to access, and keeps really nice track of the draft. So props to Joe Marino and the crew at the Draft Network. It really helped make this thing work for me, anyways.
Yeah, for me as well.
They do a great job.
There were some teams where, even Dallas at 10. I don't know what Dallas really needs. And it's right there. It's they need corner. All right. Best guy on the board, Patrick Surtain. So, yeah, it's super useful.
Right. All right. Well, Sal, thanks a lot for riding the ride with us here for the full 3 hours.
No
Thanks
Thank
to
you,
Nate
guys.
Geary as well, of course. We'll take a time out here. Everybody have a good weekend. If you're leaving us, we're going to shift gears into Sabres pregame mode. Paul Hamilton will join me right after the top of the hour break, and we'll get the scene set for Game 3 of 3 in a row between the Sabres and the Bruins tonight in downtown Buffalo. So stay tuned for that. I am the Bulldog, and this is WGR.
Stay connected to our shows and get in on the conversation. Follow us on Twitter at WGR550.
Hi, this is Mike Schopp. The safe and effective coronavirus vaccine is going into arms every day. Hundreds of thousands in New York have already been vaccinated, and the next step is ours. Join me in getting vaccinated as soon as possible so we can all be together soon. Discover the facts for yourself at health.ny.gov, and please remember to continue to mask up and social distance. Brought to you by Univera Healthcare. Visit univerahealthcare.com/COVID-19. Get vaccinated as soon as you can.
As Western New York moves into spring, now is a great time to consider making the move to Infinity of Williamsville. Their professional, knowledgeable team is here to assist you with amazing deals on the entire range of new 2021 Infinity vehicles. Right now, get 0% APR for 72 months on any new 2021 Infinity. That's your choice of the full 2021 Infinity lineup, 0% for 72 months. 0% APR for 72 months on approved credit at 13.89 per thousand finance through Infinity Financial Services. Not all buyers qualify. Must take delivery from current dealer stock by April 30th. See dealer for details. And come into Infinity of Williamsville now and see the all-new 2022 Infinity QX55 luxury crossover coupe in person. It's more than just a car. It's a statement. Now is a great time to consider Infinity of Williamsville, a member of the Wester Auto Group and Buffalo's exclusive Infinity certified pre-owned seller. What is beyond Infinity? Infinity of Williamsville. On Main Street, just east of Transit Road.
At Fisher Investments, we do things differently, and other money managers don't understand why.
Because our way works great for us.
But it may not work for your clients. That's why Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, obligated to put clients first. It's the highest standard for a financial advisor.
So, what do you provide? Cookie-cutter portfolios like the rest of us?
No cookie-cutter portfolios here. Fisher Investments tailors portfolios to meet each client's goals and needs.
But you do sell investments that earn you high commissions, right? And make commissions when you make trades for your clients?
No, Fisher Investments doesn't